Good evening, model railroaders, and welcome back to the Second Section podcast, where it's just regular folks talking about model railroading. I'm your host, Andy Dorsch, and joining me in the studio this evening is my co-host, Mike Ostertag. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Happy
Hey,
birthday.
oh, thanks. Yeah, I turn 43 today.
Really?
So yes,
Wow.
and I got a nice little birthday present from me to the section crew this evening. Joining us from the basement of Bob Rivard, we have Bob Rivard and William Sampson on the horn tonight. Good evening, everybody. How's it going?
Good evening, you guys.
Yeah, good to
Hey,
see
it's
you guys.
good. It's good to see you guys again. I was gonna say tonight we're gonna keep our theme going this week with not only apparently it's Sioux Line month here at the second section, but
Right.
we're gonna be doing the prototype model railroading, and Bob Rivard's got a fantastic Sioux Line and Rock Island layout that we're gonna be diving into this evening. But first, before we get into that, I do want to turn it over to the section crew real quick. We got 106 people in the chat already. So if you guys have comments, questions for Bob or William, make sure to get them into the chat so I can get those up in front of William and Bob, and they can answer the questions related to the models and the layouts. So I guess I got a bunch of material in the hopper here, pictures and all that good stuff, so we can bring those up at any time. But before we do that, William, this is your 6th time on the show, so we're going to skip your introduction. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But Bob, welcome to the Second Section podcast. For those in our audience who are unfamiliar with you and your works, why don't you give yourself a little intro and tell us about yourself and your model railroading hobby?
Well, I have my shirt on for Luke inspired me when I saw you guys last week on the podcast, so I better wear my Sioux Line shirt.
There you go.
Yes, but anyway, down in my basement here, it's 1977. And
It's
all the scenes you see down
1977.
here are modeled after actual locations around the Twin Cities area, and it's just kind of been my lifelong ambition. I grew up
Okay.
about 3 blocks from a lot of these areas here on Benjamin Street. And when I was
Okay.
a kid, I would get on my bicycle and run up, and I'd hear the train starting out of Shoreham Yard back in the, even the 1960s, and I'd wait for the train to come up over the hill and sit at the crossbuck at Benjamin
Sure.
and watch these big, huge trains go
So-
over Shoreham Hill.
Sure. So William, can you help out with the audio? We're having that issue where he's real quiet again. Sorry about that, Bob.
Oh, that's all right.
Let's take a look there.
So that
Am I
sounded
sound all
good.
right?
Yeah, you sound fine now.
Go ahead.
Bob is
Oh, let me try it again. How about now?
nope, still
Talking
just
to
a
you
hair
guys.
quiet.
Oh.
Wonder what happened.
How about now, you guys?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Is that better? Yeah, interesting. Okay. So, well, here, real quick here. So Frank Jordan, that bum, he's down in Arizona right now, but this is his book. And around 1985, Frank and I ran into each other through Greg Smith, and who is a local icon in the Twin Cities, and he kind of introduced us to Frank. Frank would spend the summer months at his aunt's house on Polk Street, which is the next street down on my railroad here. And it turned out Frank and I were watching the same trains, but we didn't know each other yet. So it's just kind of interesting how our paths ended up crossing in 1985. And Frank is down here one day. We're down on the railroad, and we decided, well, hey, we could put Shoreham Hill on the railroad. And we pasted out. It meant a few more duck unders, but it meant so much to us to be able to model Shoreham Hill
Nice.
and connect up to New Brighton and do all these things. And William, of course, is very familiar with the scenes I've been doing down here. So I have areas that I've modeled I probably shouldn't have modeled. I've modeled the Rock Island and south of the Rock Island, the Inver Grove area. And what's neat about this area, you guys, is that the Sioux Line ran a train every day. It was called the Rocky Sioux Transfer. And that train would have, Rock Island engines. It would have Union Pacific, Southern Pacific engines.
Oh, geez.
And when you're a little kid and you're seeing this, it's like, that was just fascinating to me. And now I get to model that. And actually modeled on the sub level of the railroad in Inver Grove. So we have a place we can actually run those trains in and out of. The Sioux crews would cab down to Inver Grove in St. Paul. And the train would always have a Sioux Line caboose, and Rock Island supplied the power. And it would go to Shoreham, turn, and go back to Inver Grove. Crew would get in their cars and go home. There's a little trailer down there that they had got their paperwork on. But
So
here you're seeing the engine house.
wow. So let's just so this is how you got into the Sioux Line. So are you from the area that you're modeling then?
Yes, that my mom and dad decided to buy this house on Benjamin, and I was able to buy the house from them around 1982. So this is the house I grew up in, and so it was just such a neat thing to be able to go up here. 3 blocks from here is the Sioux Line Chicago main, the double main from Shoreham. Out to Cardigan, it was double main for like 12 miles.
That's fantastic. So basically, ever since you were, I guess, growing up, you were exposed to the railroad that you modeled, and basically that was like, this is it. This is the one we want to model.
Correct. And what's interesting about that is that I was watching these trains as a kid, and I really had no idea where they were going. I just knew that they looked pretty cool going over this big hill, and they would be going very slow, trying to make over the hill, and they would gather speed, of course. And little did I know where these trains were going to the east from here. But of course, more time went by, and I learned about it. And like I said, I'd run into people, and it's been a great experience learning about the Sioux Line.
Yeah. So it looks like you got a triple, quadruple decker in your basement here.
To model what I wanted to model, there's a lot of levels on this railroad, and it's a maintenance challenge, let's just say.
Yeah, sure.
And I built the railroad like around around 1980, so there's a lot of maintenance to do down here.
Yeah, so let's see here. So you're modeling 1977.
Correct.
And was there a specific reason as to you picking that timeline, or are you like modeling like the whole year, or are you narrowed down to a day?
Well, what's interesting about that, when Frank and I made a line with each other, we were in 1985 in the 80s. We were modeling like engines, freight cars that we saw, and as time went by, I decided to pick an actual year, and 77 just worked out great, because what's neat about 77 when you're doing the Sioux Line, and as Luke knows, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, because Luke does 1979. I do 77. Well, I can run all the GEs. The 10 GEs were still on the roster. All the F units were still on the roster.
Oh, yeah.
And being in the Twin Cities, I can run the Dolly Sisters.
Ah, there you go.
Oh.
Which is cool.
So
yeah, that's something that you've got on over Luke. He's technically. Well, they did kind of make a couple trips down to Fond du Lac, but not very often, right?
He hasn't. Doesn't he have the Dolly Sisters?
I think he does. Yeah, I think he still does possibly have them. I don't think he uses them though.
So okay, Chris Bell's got a question. I have the same question. What are the Dolly Sisters?
Oh, there they are, William. They're on the shelf over there. See them over there?
Yep.
The Sioux had 2. They purchased these in 1962. They were RS-27s. And
So they're
Sue nicknamed him the Dolly Sisters because they always ran around together.
huh. Those are fantastic, really fantastic models.
And that was probably my third attempt at modeling those. Those are the Proto 2000s that came out a few years ago.
Okay, and you said it was your third attempt at modeling them.
Yeah, like the first attempt that might have been the Overland. I think was it Overland or Oriental had a model, but the hoods were too fat, you know. And then I
Yeah.
had Overland models.
Wow.
And I believe, yeah, those and these just run nice. I put sound decoders in them, and
And those are the protos, right?
those are the Protos, yes.
Yeah.
And Mike,
There's
Mike Paulsgrove, he models or he manufactures his Sea Line models. He does the they call it the Sea Line models call it a cab heater, the little appliance that's behind the fireman there.
yeah.
Yeah, just right here.
Yeah.
There's a technical name for it, but I think the Sea Line was the only road that had those on their
That's really cool detail that you added. And so Mike Paulsgrove, he's the one that he makes those
Suit Parts.
Suit
is the name
Parts?
of his company. Does,
Yeah.
3D laser printing, and
Yep.
he sells those. You can actually buy that whole unit with the little smoke jack on it. And
Oh, that's
mine are
pretty
scratch
slick.
built.
Scratch and yours are yours.
Yeah, mine. I did mine before Mike had that company. So
Okay. That's fantastic. So how many locomotives, like we just looked at the Wall of Fame there, it looks like. So how many locomotives do you have from the 1977 era in Sioux Line?
that's a very good question. Luke probably even knows. But this, I think I modeled about 200, maybe 230 Sioux Line engines.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
There might be 50 Rock Island engines. Frank Jordan, we talk about this all the time, but he loves the Rock Island. So I've modeled so many Rock Island engines that I'll never run them. All of it.
Yeah. This is incredible. So are they all to the same level of detail as the Dolly sisters then?
I would say so. All of my engines are modeled after photos that I found on the internet or
Okay.
books.
That's and so I'm just trying to think of a follow up here with the locomotives now.
So, I got one.
Yeah, because I just got to stop and unpack.
Yeah.
Here,
Okay.
there's a lot.
So having been at your house already, Bob, and
Right.
and having seen this in person, and having been at Luke's house, I know that the two of you discuss the roster quite often. So is there any engine, or are there any engines that, like, I'm fairly certain that both of you have almost the entire Sioux roster covered between the two of you. So are there any locomotives that you know of that you haven't done yet that you would like to do that the Sioux Line has had?
Well, there's so many SD40s and SD40-2s. I don't think we'll ever model a whole roster, but we're pretty close, I believe.
Yeah, I know. Every once in a
Unbelievable.
while, Luke will tell me, he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to start this project. It's a number Bob doesn't have, so I'm going to go with this one."
It's the coolest thing, you guys, when Luke and Owen are down my basement. It's just so neat to see you guys running around and looking at stuff on the shelves. And
it's
Dad, look at this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You guys very much complement each other with the modeling. I mean, it's like he's on one end of the railroad and you're on the other end.
Well, here's a good example, Mike. Luke has modeled. The Sioux had 4 chop nose Jeep 9s on their roster. One of them was the 2411, and I don't know where that engine is. It's some. Oh, there it is, right there, William. The 2411. And Luke has done a couple. They had 4 of them. I've only done the 2411. So the other 3 are open for Luke to model. So
There you go.
Oh wow.
Well, yeah, those are the ones that had the slanted nose to them, right? Did they have a little like almost
a couple of them, the Sioux actually chopped the nose, and then a couple of them, I believe, they used a kit from EMD, so it had like a. I believe I used a Tyco nose on.
Oh.
it.
Yeah. Kind of has that GP20 type nose on it with a little slant
Correct.
to it, right? Yeah.
Correct. And then
That's
of course
cool.
I have the whole roster of GE's model, the whole 10 of them. Luke mentioned that last time he was on with you guys. Where I cut the Athearn hood with a bandsaw, my dad's bandsaw. So I
Yeah.
the correct hood with.
It's just incredible just to see all the models that that you
There's
have.
a couple of them there. There's the 807.
Oh man.
I always
See, now,
tease Luke about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, the Sioux acquired the roster of GEs, actually kind of paralleled the C&Ws. They acquired them in 1968, and in 1975 they repainted all of them in the parallelogram scheme with the hockey stick scheme. And fortunately, I knew Rick Johnson at Kalmbach, who was like probably the best illustrator in the country, and he had an Alps printer, and he was able to do the parallelograms for me.
Oh cool.
That's very neat.
So to print the white, so he could print the white, is that right?
He printed the black logo, and then what I did, I made my own Scotch light. I used like a faded cream color paint and made my own parallelogram, the trapezoid part, and then I applied Rick's decal over that, so it gives it a little bit of the Scotch 3 on Scotch reflective look to it.
This is incredible. I mean,
That's awesome.
This.
Well, Luke and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. We get to these different areas or levels, I guess is the way to say it. And I love how Luke puts the tape around the doors of the F units.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fantastic. So let's. So this was. Go ahead.
There's the international container that William is shooting there.
Okay.
That's in Shoreview, Minnesota. Transfer 1, the old Transfer 1, which is H36 nowadays. They still serve that industry.
So basically, what you were able to do was, so where you're modeling, you went out and essentially walked the tracks, took a bunch of photos, and got all of the I guess the necessary materials to put some of these scenes together, right?
Here's an example. This is 1982. William is shooting here. This
yeah,
and it's just shot of the track because I was shooting the areas because I knew I was going to model these areas. And as you can see, the code lines are still there. The poles.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you. So what or why did you decide to dive into this level of fidelity with your modeling? Like those locomotives are next level type modeling, right? With all the details and then going and doing the scratch building. And same with, like, if you look at this scene, right? The crossover, it's almost shot for shot the same.
This is that scene that William is shooting right now.
Yeah.
This is the scene we're looking at, correct.
So you have yeah, go ahead.
You got to remember when I built the railroad, I think most of the engines have been replaced since I built it because manufacturers came out with different models and, Athearn, Genesis. A lot of my F units are the original Stuart, which to me, they're still state of the art. The mechanisms are good. And
yeah.
So what was that, 35, 40 years ago that Stuart came out with that F unit?
Yeah. So I do have we're getting a bunch of questions coming in, Bob, just on the introduction here. And I think what we'll do tonight is we'll we'll go and we'll field a couple of questions, and then I know that you wanted to look through a bunch of the scenes that we had, and then you wanted to talk about your shop as well, and then there was just some of your favorite models, and essentially going through kind of the process on how you picked out certain details to models. So here's the one of the questions that's coming in is there a helix, or is it done with all grades?
No, there's a helix, all right.
There's a helix, all right.
Railroad back in around 1980, but I built my helix out of particle board because I didn't know enough. So that has some maintenance challenges now. I had no idea that particle board could work. So, I should have built it out of plywood. I didn't know enough back then. And as it turns out, the home is so I tamp it and pry it and put shims under it, and actually I'm making pretty decent ones.
Hey, William, we're gonna do a little technical check. You walked away from Bob.
Do you want me to dump the other camera?
Yeah, let's dump the other camera if you don't mind walking around. And let's see if the Bluetooth, I wonder if your Bluetooth is dropped on your pods.
I'm just going to, if you want to throw you and Mike up briefly, I'm going to exit and I'm going to come right back in.
Yeah. So let's have a quick chat here while we get the technical piece figured out on our end. So this is crazy. Like all of the different locomotives that he's modeling, I could not believe that one bit.
Well, I tell you what, you know how I feel about the Sioux line, right?
Yeah, it's
can't
your favorite
not
railroad.
Yeah, my favorite railroad, the Sioux line. I cannot not go to Bob's and be in awe of everything that's sitting on shelves. And I'm like, I've even had someone like, Bob, you gonna run any of this? Oh, I don't know. Maybe one of these days. I don't know. I kind of like the stuff that's on the layout right now. It's running so good and blah, 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 blah. And well, I got to redo this, or I have to redo that. He is such a craftsman and so meticulous with all of the aspects of it. And the other thing that's really neat about his layout, and I'm sure he'll dive into this, and it'll be a question really, since we're talking prototype. If you want to talk about a guy who has taken prototypical fidelity to the nth degree, I mean, just look at that photo that he was showing and the way that was, he put that there for a reason, because the curve is the right way. It's in the right spot. Everything flows just like the photo does. And his entire layout is like that. It's just incredible. When he comes back and we get back around to seeing some of the other aspects of the layout, there are some places that are really, really, really cool on his layout. I don't want to give away too much because I mean it's
right. We want Bob to do the presentation, but
and so I mean it's one of those things where it's just it's to be that meticulous with what you're doing. Him and Luke, it's
exactly.
Luke is just as much made out of cut of the same cloth as what Bob is when it comes to that fidelity aspect of the layout and the roster and all that stuff,
Yeah. So so there's a couple of questions coming in, maybe that you can field, Mike, before we get Bob and William back. So you've been there before. David Winter's asking, how many levels is Bob's layout?
Oh, well,
it's Stump the Stars time here.
It's okay. The rock, you saw where the rock island was, way down on the bottom, close to the floor. So I mean, that's one level. Then you come back up, you come around back. The main level, you have that yard. It's Shoreham, and then you have that's another level. That's 2, and the other one's 3. Then you have the hill, and the hill goes up to another level off the helix. I want to say 4 for sure. 4, possibly 5. Yeah, I was just gonna say I would say
There could
5,
be-
5 for
It
sure.
could be 4. Probably 5 might be accurate.
Hey,
Well,
Bob's back.
Hey, Bob. Okay,
Yes.
so I was talking about the Rock Island, and Rock Island is its own entity on your railroad. I mean, it's kind of got its own
Correct.
level. And then from Shoreham, you go down into the helix and you wrap up around and come like where the train is there. So that's kind of 2 different levels, but then that wraps back around and comes back over on top of itself. But yet you have the level up on top. It's like 5 levels, right? But like
There-
3 of
there
them
could
kind
be
of
5 levels. That's
but like 3 of them kind of coexist with each other, right?
right. Because Shoreham Hill is his own, comes out of the helix at one point, goes back in around
Right.
the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the Minnesota transfer. That's all on one.
Right.
And what, Cardigan Junction, right?
Yeah, I would like to be able to run a train up there, but now I have Digitrack problems. So
There you
of
go.
course, right?
That's how it goes. It's the live demo.
Exactly.
All right.
Well,
So are you going to take us on a little tour around the railroad then, Bob?
that was kind of my hope here.
Okay.
Well, let's see. What do we have here? We have the 2119. And maybe I should just let's try plugging it back in here and see what happens. Okay.
That's how.
Okay. Now. All right. All right. There's that guy here. Okay. That's 2719. Oh, something's going on there. That's that switcher. Okay. Interesting. Now, I want to be able to hit this throttle here, William, and let's see, 7.
Letting her rip.
This should be 737.
While Bob lets that dial in, for
All
anybody
right,
that's
there we
looking
go.
at what his track plan looks like, here's just a brief look at the schematic. For some to orientate themselves makes it a little bit more difficult, but this at least gives you an idea of what he's got going as far as the routes that he's covering. He's clearly color-coded them based on his DCS blocks, the Digitracks.
Yeah.
Down to here. And right now, what we're looking at is they're coming up the hill. So as he comes up the hill on the map that he's got, Cardigan is off in the distance. We're looking at Raymond Avenue. This is New Brighton in this area here. The helix that we looked at is obviously on the far left end. But as you kind of put it together, Bob, where are we on the map?
Oh, right now we would be on the schematic there. We would be coming up right now. We're right here. There's
so
the
cool.
helix. We come out of the helix, so we're probably about there right now.
To help people see what we're doing, then we're going to come up out of this hill. We'll go through New Brighton. You're going to see him go through Bueller Junction, which is the Minnesota transfer, and then you're going to go on to Lexington Avenue into Cardigan Junction. So we're going to follow this train along.
So we're running now. We got it back running here, William. So now you're gonna have to
All
show
right.
the flange squealer.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah. Iowa Scale Engineering.
There we go.
Oh, that's cool. I can hear it loud and clear.
So these trains going up Shoreham Hill wouldn't go too fast. So this is about prototypical speed
Okay.
here.
And so, what was the typical traffic that came through this area then? Is it manifest trains or?
Yes, man. This train that we're running now would be typically be about 110, 120 cars from Canada to Chicago. The Canadian Pacific basically used the Soo Line as a funnel to get their traffic from Canada down to Chicago. In fact, they actually owned for many years 53% of their stock.
Oh, really?
About, what, mid-90s, they outright purchased them. Which actually they can't, because it's Canada, they can't really purchase the Soo Line. So my friends that work still on the Canadian Pacific,
Yeah.
their checks still say Soo Line, is what I hear.
Really?
Nope. Yeah.
Is that like the Wisconsin Central, Mike, with the Canadian National?
Yeah, very similar. My checks still say WC on them, Wisconsin Central or Grand Trunk Western or
Oh.
something like that. They say something. I
They-
don't
you don't-
even hardly look at my check anymore.
So what's the scene we're looking at
Do you
here,
guys
Bob?
hear?
Oh,
do you
go
guys, Do you guys hear our Iowa scale engineering flange squealer that I bought at St. Louis this summer? That's
Yes.
what
Oh,
Dylan's
yeah.
picking up. That's I had to buy a flange squealer because this is exactly where the flanges would squeal on Shoreham Hill, just past Johnson Street.
It sounds awesome, and it really looks.
And of course, I'm losing you guys a little bit here, so you're cutting out a little bit here, but
Well,
if you can still hear me. Oh, there, now I hear you, Andy. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So what's the scene that we're looking at here at this crossing?
This is Johnson Street. Now, typically the helper engines would cut off between Johnson and Benjamin. So
Okay.
William's gonna show this helper engine cut off on the fly. Now the air hose would go.
Yep.
Let's see if we can make this work here on live TV. Psh, there goes the air hose.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the helper would head back down the hill and wait for the next train, right?
Now
They'd radio down
that's
to
exactly right. They would radio in that they want to come back into Shoreham on the East Main.
You
And
have
so
a
what
video
we're
out
gonna
on
do is-
YouTube, or you've had a video that's shown that actually in action on the prototype, don't you?
Many times I went up there with my video gear and captured this exact move. And it's kind of neat with the double throttles, the two-sided Digitrax throttles, to be able to do that with the helper.
Well, that was really good.
So now the helper's drifting back down to Shoreham here. And our eastbound is still hopefully on the move here and coming up to New Brighton.
And hey, could you go back to that picture of that crossing right there? That bus that you see there is actually one of the Rapido buses, right? That they made, and that's an accurate bus for Minneapolis for their public transit, right?
That is correct. William has a nice one of his videos. He shows how he modeled that bus.
But Bob went so far as, and it's hard to pick up here for you guys, but there is the Johnson on the front of the bus. He did decal, and don't say that he just laid down a decal that said it. He went number and letter by letter.
Really?
So
Wow.
the little display board does say Johnson on it. It is accurate to the MTC bus.
4B Bryant Johnson, it has to say.
And then
And there's the Mike Buddy.
the Mike Buddy van in the foreground.
Oh, that's cool.
But he also went so far as Bob, tell him about your the radio station that's on the side.
Oh,
of this.
the Super U100. That was a big deal for Twin Cityans that grew up in the 70s. It was only on the air for 2 years, but that billboard I got off the internet, off of a photo of a MTC bus in it. There was the U100 billboard.
That
Gonna
is
catch
so
up with our
cool.
train.
Here
All
comes
right.
our train at New Brighton, William.
He would have come around on the left.
We're coming
Don't
up
hit
to
your head.
the
No, we're under the stairwell here.
Yeah, don't hit your
we're
head.
coming up to the Diamond at New Brighton.
Now
and,
here our caboose has cut through, just so you guys are aware of what he's doing here. That train is traversing through this maze and
Oh my
popping out
gosh.
because he just went around the helix. He went around the helix, and that train now has gotten itself into Bueller Junction.
Bulwer Junction, and the Diamond at New Brighton in my era was a four-way stop sign, just like at a road. That was
Really?
the extent of the interlocking back then. Yeah, and the other neat thing about my railroad, now Luke, when I ran into Luke, I think it was at one of the Sioux Line conventions, it might have been Gladstone about 25 years ago, and Luke gave a fantastic presentation on how he models the searchlight signals on his railroad.
Yes.
Now I'm fortunate. Where I model through the Twin Cities, it was track warrant. It was called yard limit rules, and so a train could follow another train if you could be in safe stopping distance. I don't have to worry about signaling in 1977. 1982 is when they put CTC in, though. However, so the Diamond now would be it's interlocked with lights, with signals.
Oh, look
Wow.
at that.
So they would come up to this. So they
Now,
would
mind
come
you,
up.
this view, Bob, that we're getting to
Oh,
see
that-
the helix.
oh, that's kind
there
of a
was
neat-
a wall here that
Yeah.
Bob has taken out
Yeah, I took
and
that wall
opened up
down.
this entire area, which we'll swing around and just take a brief look, and then
Here,
we'll
we'll-
follow our train.
Let's. I'll blow the horn here, William, at the diamond here.
But he's taken out a wall that was here.
That was one of my retirement projects. I took the wall down. That where you see this, the display shelves. That used to be a paneled wall that my dad had put in back in the '60s.
Yeah.
And I thought
You
I can
see
take that.
the beam
Yeah,
up
the
above
beam,
here.
the beam's there. I can take that wall down. So let's take the wall down, and it just opens up the basement, and I can look over and see Cardigan. And
Oh, that's cool.
so now Now back in the day, I tell people when I'm running trains, I witnessed them doing rolling stops, so they didn't have to come to a complete stop. But
Oh,
so we're going clomping across the diamond here. And when I built the railroad in 1980, I went up to the real diamond at New Brighton with a piece of tracing paper and traced the angle of the diamond. I put the paper on the two rails because that diamond is like at some goofy like 7-degree angle. So
I was
it's
gonna
complete-
say that's not 90. That's not a 90 degree.
It is not. It's you cannot buy a diamond like that, I'm sure, at a store. Now, the interesting thing about my diamond now, when I first built it, I built where the rails interlocked with Bondo in plastic. I built it like an Atlas diamond. Well,
Really?
yeah, and then so years later, I go down, I meet up with Chuck Darris down in Chicago, fellow Sulline modeler, and he built his out of metal. And so of course, he has a 4-way double pull, double throw switch, and you could hear what interested me. You could hear the clickety clack of his wheels going across the metal diamond. So
Yeah.
the second I got home, I rebuilt my diamond because I wanted to hear the clickety clack of the wheels.
Oh, that's cool. I love the fact that you didn't just settle for a 90 degree. You went ahead and did the custom angle in there.
It needed to be. That's one of those things that needed to be at that angle, or I would lose sleep about it. You know.
Remember what I was talking about before about the fidelity of everything he's done?
Yeah,
I mean, that's next level stuff right there.
it is. It's really good. Oh, wow.
So William is following this train out to Cardigan. So the area I modeled through the Twin Cities on the Sioux Line, there was 12 miles of double track from Shoreham Yard out to Cardigan. At Cardigan, at the east end, it went back to single track, and they went out to Withrow and out to Dresser, and they called that the Barron sub out at Withrow. And of course, Withrow, they can go to Chicago. So
Wow. So we're going past Shaw Lumber here.
yes.
So
I love that I can model Shaw lumber because you have to have a lumber yard on your railroad, right?
right,
It's mandatory.
Yes,
It
I
is.
think it is.
if you're in the Midwest, you have to have a lumber company on your layout.
It's just neat, you know.
So, Bob, do you? This is gonna sound like a sac. Did you hit your head, William? Did you hit your head?
There's now Williams that
Uh-oh.
no,
you didn't hear
no,
that. That
he
was-
did not.
Oh.
So William is at Lexington Avenue, and last week I had some issues at Lexington. I had to tear up the grade crossing, so I figured until I get the bugs figured out, I'm gonna make it a construction scene. So I built little barricades, and I bought a GHQ
Oh,
backhoe, and it's until I think it's a neat little scene. I got a
that's
Sioux-Line work
awesome.
So Bob, with the layout being as old as it is, like you said, you've been working on it for quite some time. Have you ever kicked around the idea of just starting over with like new construction concepts, new like a new design for the layout? Have you ever kicked around that idea?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, you think about it, but all I do now, after I retired about 2 years ago, I replaced chunks of track that are bad from many years. So I have big pieces of Atlas flex track ready to go. I did about 3 areas just today, and
Oh wow!
well, you get expansion kinks, and so it's actually kind of a full-time job just keeping the track maintained. But or I'll replace pieces. I was telling you about the plywood. I should have used plywood on a lot of the road bed, and back then I used particle board, and so I'll even replace parts of road bed with plywood and put the track back in. And
Nice.
So, Bob, David Winther's got a question for you. What code is the track on your layout?
when I built the railroad through New Brighton out to Cardigan, I used Lampert code 70. And now Shoreham Hill, I use code 100. You know, I guess I can live with code 100, even though it's probably bigger than it should be. But code 100 is a little bit more reliable. And
that's a really cool scene.
so, yeah, there's now that these eastbound trains would come up to Cardigan at the end of the double track, and they would wait for the westbounds to show up. So right there now, our eastbound train number 944 is waiting. He's holding for a westbound to show up coming up from Chicago and Withrow here.
Oh.
While Bob brings that in, just to give you guys a look, this is the 3D Central did a 3D printed car. M&S had them. They had 60 of them. But this particular car, fully 3D printed. Matt Herman, who used to work with ESU, was the one that produced the car. And now Bob models 1977. This car, I can see the built date on it. It says 178. So as a prototype modeler, Bob would not allow this one on his railroad, but the M&S did have them built in 77, the first batch. So if you see another one that shows up, it will have the correct built date, and it will be accurate to his era. Now, as we watch this train coming in, we do have the F unit on the point.
This would be the 2225B, as a matter of fact. And you probably see that guy, and he probably blow his horn at him there.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite scenes on his whole layout.
Yeah.
I went out to about 8 years ago. I went out to the real Cardigan Junction and took photographs of the real background and sky. And there's the walking path I come down when I go to the real Cardigan Junction there. And I blended the sky with paint with acrylic watercolor paints and blended it in. All I did is copy them off on my printer and pasted them together along the entire masonite backdrop. Because before this, it was just a blue sky.
Yeah.
So now these are actually the real trees and the real sky at the real Cardigan.
Wow.
And
that is super cool.
All I did is tear the top of the paper from my printer that I printed out, right? So there's probably about 12 just from my regular printer. And I tore the top and blended it in with, kind of like Bob Ross. Well, I did some happy trees, some happy clouds, and it seemed to work.
We love Bob Ross. He's amazing.
Yep. Well, on one of my clinics, I grabbed a freeze frame of Bob doing a painting with a blank canvas, because I tell people how painting a Sioux-line locomotive is a lot like an artist starting with a blank canvas when you weather a Sioux-line locomotive. It's just it truly is an art form, weathering a white Sioux-line engine.
and that. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, there's another staple of the Midwest. You have to have the Red Owl truck on the.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to talk about that. I saw my first Red Owl truck down at Dan Holbrook's back around year 2000, and when I came home, I got 3 of them, and I gave one to Frank Jordan, and I don't know what those things are going for now on eBay, but last time I looked, it was up there.
Yeah, Green Bay had a distribution center, a huge one.
Oh,
Oh,
They were all over the 5-state area from
Yep.
Wisconsin, the upper Michigan. Red Owls were all over the place back
We
then.
still have one in Green Bay. We
Oh,
still
that's
have
neat.
a really small one on 9th Street. It's Mason Brothers Red Owl. It's the only one in the area that I know of.
Oh, that's cool. I know they actually sell models of them. You get HO scale models of a Red Owl store, and
Yep.
I don't have room for that. I can do a lot down here, but I run out of room for certain things.
Yep.
So
your trains are quite long, Bob.
Yeah, these two trains here were like 40-car trains, and that in a basement railroad like mine, it gives you a good illusion of a 120-car train. You know, your mind kind of tells you that it's a long train, so I can live with that.
And look at the beacon on that caboose.
Yeah, all my wide vision cabooses have strobe flashers, and they're just little N-sized batteries with the little circuitrons, magnetic reed switch.
Yep. Oh, that's really cool. It's a nice detail. And I love how the Sioux locomotives and the red and white isn't over weathered. It's not like just gobbed with black.
Right. Well, it depends. Like I said, I use photos for my weathering. If I don't have a good photo to work by, you know, that's kind of a key thing for me.
Oh, very cool.
Right. Now, so I can run that. We're going to run that eastbound down into the staging yard now, William, out of Cardigan. So I'm just lining my tracks here before I forget. So here's that guy. Here we go. Now he's going to start up and head east. Now in real life, that switch back in the day, back in my era, was a spring switch. So all the bound trains would automatically take the West Main.
That's cool.
Yeah, back in my era, it was West Main and East Main. Now, and when they put the CTC signaling in 1982, the East Main was called number 2 Main and the West Main was called number 1 Main. And in 1987, when they merged with the Milwaukee Road, and they bought the Milwaukee Road, they tore the old East Main out of the ground. So it's just the West Main up there now today.
And that's what's still in place.
That is correct. So you can see the road, you can see the grade, the road bed of the old East Main if you go up to watch trains now. And it's kind of neat, the Canadian Pacific, back about 10 years ago, decided to run all their westbound trains to the Twin Cities on the track that you're seeing this train that William is shooting. So at Cardigan, they come around out of St. Paul and they come around that leg of the Y and they go westbound. And
that's really cool. So do the trains in the other direction have to stop at the Diamond, or is it just the eastbound ones?
No, it was a 4-way stop sign, just like at a road. So all the trains.
That's right.
Now, if I didn't stop just now, that's because I didn't stop.
Yeah, okay.
That's because I probably. But like I said, I do recall visually seeing rolling stops.
Yeah.
But the one you just saw was probably a little fast. So. It's usually when I talk at the same time I screw something up. So.
No. I was just taking it all in because this is really fantastic. I am just gobsmacked here. I don't know what to say.
I think, William, can I suggest something?
Yeah.
Could I have you shoot the crossing gates at 37th when they come down for this westbound? Oop,
Make sure we get over.
There you go. Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, this is really
Stood
cool.
up again.
Wait till you see this, Andy. This is actually really neat.
These crossing gates are over here, William. These crossing gates will be coming down any minute because they're hooked up to the photo cells, and this westbound should be tripping them here. Now these crossing gates were pretty unique. They were hydraulic fluid operated.
Oh.
The maintainer that I used to talk to, Bob Minturn, said they were a real headache for these guys. And I always remembered them. They were probably put in the late 50s. And so they were high. So of course I have a maintenance truck there.
Yep.
So there's completely scratch built.
The truck is?
The crossing gates.
Oh, the crossing gate.
Yeah, the truck is a, it's that resin kit. I can't even think of it now, William, that makes the kits.
Fred Ferkus.
Oh,
would know.
Wheels of Time.
Wheels of Time.
Yep.
Oh, that's
So this is
cool.
now this is the crossing. Benjamin is the street that I live on, and they made it a cul-de-sac about 15 years ago, but it used to be a crossing, so the kid on the bike could very well be me watching the train there at Benjamin.
Well, Bob, and you should also note that the Olds 442 that's inside the gate here, that wasn't an accident. That was Bob witnessed.
Oh yeah,
it,
that's it. That's
and he actually modeled it off of an incident that he had seen.
Oh no.
So that wasn't just him misplacing a car.
yeah. Actually it's from a photo. In fact, you might even have that photo, Andy, on one of those shots.
Yeah, let me see. I'll page
very
through
possible.
here if I can take a quick look. Find a 442.
This-
I saw a question earlier there, Andy. That it was
Yeah.
oh no, it's right up there. The beer line modeler. He asked if can I do this too? Let me see.
I don't know. Try it.
Hey,
Yes, you can.
look at that.
Yeah,
I
because
guess
I made
you can.
you an admin. You can.
Yeah,
You
try
do
it out.
whatever
I
you
should be
want.
able to do this. Do you ever have any operating sessions, Bob, on the layout?
I was wondering if you were going to ask me that. Well, we haven't really had an official one yet, but Frank and I will try to. Oh, I have to make sure I have this track line in here. Oh, I think I do. Yeah, Frank and I, we back in the day we used to have operating sessions, and lately we really haven't. But we kind of do a little informal. Like William will come over with his dad, and we'll run some trains, and Frank will come by and.
So people are able to orientate themselves here, Bob. That freight that we're watching head down the hill, they're coming up to Johnson Street. And the train that we started with, that was the westbound, is now pulling down into staging that we can see kind of in the center of our screen.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's
So
just
what do
a
you
good
think
idea as far as traversing the railroad?
What do you think is a comfortable number of people that you would have down there at one time running there, Bob?
Back maybe 20 years ago, my friend Kirk would come over, Frank, Mike Daniels, myself, and we'd have actual operating sessions. And there's really not a card system for the cars. It's just too much through traffic. But I have a whole stack of these things, William. This is actually, we actually write up the transfer number 1, and we can designate where the cars go. International Container, Eastside Beverage, Cohen Steel, the Pole Yard. So that's kind of fun. We can actually write, that guy will have an actual switch list, and he can
Oh, that's cool.
That's
switch out
very neat.
transfer 1. In Rocky Sioux transfer, you might have
Oh.
some grain to set out at Cardigan for Superior. We run all the trains that the Sioux Line ran back then. We try to do it exactly how they would have done it.
So I have that picture, Bob. I did manage to find that. I'm going to share that right now. So this is the picture of the Oldsmobile on the wrong
Oh,
side
yes.
of the crossing.
Oh, look
There
at
you
that.
go.
That's
Yeah,
That guy must have really been in a hurry,
yeah,
or
yeah.
he
Let
was
me,
impatient or something.
yeah, let me see if I can bring it back up. I just lost it there. Here it is. Here we go. Yeah, and I meant to zoom in on it. And you can see him there. He's in the wrong
That was my-
spot.
That was my fault. I ran my gap here, so I shut the whole railroad down. There we go.
There we go.
Digitrax gives you about a 10-second leeway before you have to do something when you have a short circuit. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and let
Now-
me pull you back up here.
Now, one of the neat things, William is shooting Cardigan. One of my retirement projects was taking the wall down that used to be here.
Yeah.
There was a wall, so my tracks through the Y at Cardigan came through little portholes that I camouflaged with trees and scenery. And taking the wall down just opens the scene up. So I actually was able the actual Y where the switch is, that's actually over the toilet in the bathroom. So the wall of the bathroom came down. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing actually this scene right there.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
Look at that. That
This
is
shot, I took this shot in 1982, you know, with the thought of if I ever want to model this correctly, I better have shots of this stuff. And
Look at the
But look at-
colors.
it's like a dead match.
And it actually was a fun project to do the scene. And,
Oh my
and of course,
gosh.
static grass now. There's so many, even though like you were saying how many years ago I modeled the railroad, I used ground foam and now I discovered, 10 years ago, I discovered the joys of static grass. It's just, I put the static grass right over the ground foam.
I got a silly question for you, Bob, relating back to our last show with Luke. Were you
Right.
in the ground foam conspiracy with Frankengrinder? Were you part of that at all, or had anything to do with the?
I kept, Woodland Scenic and Business getting all that ground foam all those years. But,
Okay.
Yeah, he
now
was smart. He stayed away from the death trap of the Frankengrinder.
I just wanted. I know.
I know about the Frank. It's a neat story.
Yeah, I just didn't know with you Sioux Line fellas if you were all in cahoots with the Frankengrinder, but yeah.
No, I didn't get in on that. I had just used many years of Woodland Scenic's ground foam, and
Yeah.
like I said, now when you get into the static grass, you don't even want to go back to ground foam. To be honest, I love the static
The gimbal
grass.
dropped. But we wanted to get coming from the Y.
Oh, you're at Parkway.
Ah,
Oh, neat. There's actually a transfer sitting here at Parkway. That was another wall that I took down that William has talked about.
this is really incredible.
And of course, William, we have to talk about the waterworks. Of course, is over the laundry tub. That just happened to work out that way. And
Oh, there you go. What's
Wow.
this?
that's the
Wow,
waterworks.
that's really cool. That's a great idea.
And the
What
water,
is-
the waterworks had a wooden trestle. When I modeled it, it went into the waterworks. It's a double track trestle, and I don't know, mid '90s they put a fill in there. The trestle's gone, so thankfully I took the
Oh.
shots of the wooden trestle when it was still there.
That's awesome. How you did the clear acetate on the hinge like that. That's really cool.
Right, kind of helps keep the dust out of things.
Yeah. So help us orient a little bit here. So what is the waterworks? Is it really just the water utility in this area?
Correct. That's the waterworks in St. Paul. It's just right off of Rice Street.
Okay.
And that's on the St. Paul.
And was it a rail? It was rail served.
Yes, that is correct. They had the little wooden trestle. It just branches off of the St. Paul sub, and it goes around a little bit of a curve, and it goes into the building via a little double track wooden trestle.
Oh, cool.
I went back there about 1980 to take these photos. Back then, nobody cared. I mean, I'm in the building with my pictures of the tank car in there, and to take information. They should have this little in there that say soda spot here, chlorine spot here.
Oh,
I'm in
wow.
there. I'm
This is
walking
suspended
around
off
with
thread
taking my
rod.
pictures. Nobody cared. Nobody was around. Now I don't think you could do that today. They
No,
probably were
probably not.
strict about security, I would imagine.
Oh, outstanding. That's a really cool scene. I like that a lot. I wish you could see the comments and the posts coming in from the chat. So just to give you an idea what we have going on here, we get the section crew is out in full force tonight. We have 168 people in the live stream this evening, and so just the comments that are pouring in are just it's just fantastic modeling, Bob. It's really
That's cool.
really incredible.
Well, like I
And-
said, Luke and I talk about every couple weeks. We make contact with each other so we can share our thoughts and our projects that we're working on. And
Yeah. This is really, really great. So I do want to ask you a bit. So you're part of the Sioux Line Historical Society then?
Oh, heavens, yes. I probably was there from day one. I might have missed the first year, but I've missed a couple of the conventions through the years. But that's why it was so neat to run into Luke and make a line with Luke, of course. And
Yeah. And so what type of, I guess, outfit or organization does the Sioux Line Historical and Technical Society offer? What is their big, I guess, goal as an organization?
well, the main thing about the society, of course, is to share the information and the history of the Sioux Line and guys that have been work on the. That's why it's so fun to go to the conventions, because these guys that worked on the railroad, like Stuart Nelson, he was a dispatcher for years, and to be able to talk to these guys. In fact, Doug Hodgson and I recorded Stu talking about his stories. They're just invaluable to talk to these guys. And of course, a lot of these guys, like Stuart, he writes articles for the Society's magazines. And a couple years ago, there was a nice article about the new Brighton Depot, Bulwer Junction. Gentleman that happened to live a couple blocks away would go there in the winter and take pictures at New Brighton. And he's got pictures in that issue of the Rocky Sioux transfer, and it's just invaluable for us modelers, as Luke will tell you, of course, because that's where he gets a lot of his information for his railroad.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So what are we looking at here now?
We're gonna cab on this train. This train is sitting at Parkway Junction, which is still a location in St. Paul, and is, in fact, yeah, they had Griswold's at Arlington, and so let's get on this train, William, and we're gonna run this down to Cardigan. So if I put let's see if this works here. We're gonna put the 2229 in this throttle here, 2229, and let's do that.
Bob, I got bamboozled into joining the Sioux Society also.
Oh, you know what? It's the bamboozled by Luke, I bet, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting the wrong engine in, by the way. It's the 2200, which last year I modeled this from one of the Genesis, the Highliner. Remember the Highliner F unit bodies?
Oh yeah.
So I go over to Scale Model Supply last year, and they had like 4 boxes of these things, and you know what? I love these things. You can put a mechanism of your choice under it, and the thing is that you can do any phase of an F unit, and the Sioux had many different phases. So they had different louvers, configurations, but this 2200 I ran across a shot last year on the internet, and they painted it in 1977, brand new paint, right? Later, at the end of 77, it was gone. It was one of their first trade-ins for their new Jeep 38-2s, because it had once again, these guys that worked on the Sioux Line and engineers, it had manual transmission. So it was kind of a pain for them. So let's get rid of that thing. So here, just brand new paint, and it's gone at the end of the year. So anyway, we're gonna see if we have this. Let's see a 2200 here. Let's see if we have it.
Ooh,
that was good. Okay, and there's that. Let's see. All right. I love sound too, by the way, you guys. I got into the DCC a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago. It's like I love putting sound decoders in my engines now, and putting the correct prime movers in. And
so do you have a preferred brand of decoder?
I like the ESU, the 58821, the blank one, and I sit up there in my train room, and I program the correct sound file. And now that see that signal? He's gonna knock that signal down. All that is a circuitron circuit, but it's just knocked down. All it was a signal at Parkway, and the other end is at Owasso, and it's just one block. And on the real railroad, it was jointed rail. Now, of course, they replaced it. It's welded rail because they run all their westbounds up through here nowadays. But the signal never worked. It was always red because the kids would cut the bonds, and my maintainer friend told me that. He said, yeah, they never could keep the signals working at each end. So,
Kids these days, right?
and I believe Stuart Nelson told me that. He said, yeah, they threw the switch to line that signal was at Shoreham.
Oh, really?
And so now we're going, this is that wall that used to be here where William is shooting through with his camera. This used to be a paneled wall, and that wall came down, and I was able to model that scene. And you see Wheelock Parkway on the St. Paul sub. It makes a nice area for the trains to go through and into the helix.
Oh, cool.
So
So
this
we
is going down the helix now. This is just a 2-level helix, and he'll come down to the waterworks now. So
There was a question earlier. There was a question earlier if that the 381 was an XSP Jeep, and I know what the answer is. But if you want to go ahead and give the answer,
well, that is a Jeep 7. The Sioux line had 7 Jeep 7s, so that's easy to remember. But that 381 was one of the first. That might have been the second batch of Jeep 7s,
but that used to have the gyro light on it, right?
They had the 381, the 382, 383, and then they had 376, 375, 376, 377. And then they had a whole bunch of Jeep 9s that, of course, Luke and I are trying to model. Well, this is kind of cool in here, William. This is working out pretty cool.
It's doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
I'm not going to do it now, but I actually backed this train up. This is my test train, so I actually was able to back this up the helix from the other direction. But now it's very appropriate to have a Hams car coming from the CNW from East St. Paul from the Hams Brewery.
The beer refreshing.
Very appropriate. Yes, Land of Sky Blue Waters, right?
I love those commercials. Those Hams beer commercials with the dancing bear always got. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, they'd come on the TV, and I just come running in the living room, start dancing around his crate. I loved that.
Yeah, but you're not old enough, Andy, to remember the black and white in the 60s that I remember watching. So.
No, I'm not. So there's a couple of questions coming in, Bob. So looking at that 381, Tony Dixon has a question. Says, are there any recommendations for weathering white locomotives?
Gray.
Yeah, I know. I said white with the emphasis for a reason. Because I've been I've been thrown out of the Sioux circle.
Sioux line's actual, it was actually a gray, they called it, but now we're coming up to the Waterworks crossing here. So, and this train actually is going to come up to Cardigan.
This is incredible.
And now we're coming by the Waterworks.
So how do you weather the Sioux line units to maintain their color aspect, but yet show a lot of the grit and grime like you have on there?
Oh, did you say how do I weather them?
Yeah.
Or letter?
Weather.
Well, gee, a little bit of a little breakup going on here, but
sure. Yeah. So do you use powders or to weather those?
Yes. Well,
those locomotives?
I've got like I have a process I use where there's probably about 4 steps, but using the first step is using artist oil paints, burnt umber, raw siennas, and putting the weathering with some Turpenoid paint thinner into the door seams and the cracks of the doors, and then taping around with painter's tape, paint around your grills, and then airbrush some grimy black or engine black into your grills to give it the soot flat black. And then the next step would be some airbrushing, and weathering powders is what I used to finish up. And using the 4-step process like that seems to work pretty good for me. So.
And take a look at Bob's airbrush station and actually what he uses for his air as far as a compressor versus CO2.
I've been using CO2 since about 1981. I got
Really?
hooked up with this concept. So now I got Frank
Wow.
Jordan doing the same thing. So, but every year and a half, 2 years, I go down to Minneapolis Oxygen and trade this in for a new tank of CO2 for my airbrush.
And the
It
gun
lasts.
that you use?
It lasts that
Here's-
long, Bob?
Yeah, well, sometimes I'll get 2 years out. I've been putting the date down here, so just for my own, information.
Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
where I thought I put the date down there, but yeah, usually I get about 2 years out of a tank. Yeah, and I'm painting all the time. I'm always weathering something or painting something. But
And what model gun are you using?
this is sorry, Will. Yep, this is the Badger 155, and this was a demo gun I bought at St. Louis a couple of years ago from the Badger guys, and $80, not bad, for a demonstrator model they were showing how with their little clinics, and I love it. That's one of my favorite airbrushes is the Badger 150, and like I said, this is a 55. It has the dual,
And he currently
Oh, yeah.
has, what do you have in the gun to clean it?
just lacquer thinner.
Yep.
And I got my upside down paint hood, my range hood, and I
Yeah.
just got my new my other one was shot, my mask, but you gotta, if you do both, you're probably going to be covered. And I got a nice new mask here. It works out pretty good. Nice new
And
filters.
this vent does leave. You have a vent that runs up. It goes out.
It goes
right that
it goes up and around, and where the old
Oh, I see. We're going this way.
it goes where the dryer used to be. It goes out the old dryer vent outside. So
Oh, that's awesome. So, can I ask you, why did you switch from CO2, from compressed air to
Well,
CO2?
I don't even know if I ever had a compressor hooked up. I just remember this is the house that my folks were
Sure.
in before I kicked them out on their own, and so their bedroom would have been right up here, and so can you imagine a loud compressor going at night? So
Oh, yeah.
it was so nice to have the CO2 where no noise, no
Yeah.
moving parts. You don't have to worry about that moisture problem that people get with airbrushes.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I've been doing it since about 1981, the CO2 tank.
And paint of choice, it's going to be hard for anybody to be able to acquire this type of collection. But a lot of scale
Well,
coat too, or
I'm freaking out because Scale Coat 2 I think has gone belly up, and I used their 2011 white for Sioux white. So, but and I love that my red, by the way, is Santa Fe red. Scale Coat
Oh,
2.
look at that.
And engine black works pretty good for painting the pilots and the steps. And I just brush paint them. Scale Coat 2 paint covers so well black when we paint it over your red.
now are you
Yeah.
using these for your flats, or what are your?
Right. There's some just some regular old clear coat.
Krylon.
I do see some the Tamiya up there.
I do have a Tamiya. No, I haven't really been using it that much. I'm such a Scale Coat person. I like to have flat paints and flat weathering paints. I thought I'd
Yeah.
try the Tamiya for rail. I get inspired by watching other modelers stuff like Mike Confalone. He paints his ties. He'll do these nice weathering demos on YouTube. And I have some of his DVDs, by the way. I love he does the paper mill and the rock quarry. But when he shows how he paints his ties, so now whenever I put a piece of track in, I was telling you how I replace chunks of track around the railroad. If it's on a scene, I'll paint, I paint the ties first with some, this is my choice of a base color, is this camouflage gray.
Yeah.
From Rust-Oleum. It's flat, and then that gives you a nice base flat on your rail, on your track. And then I paint the ties using, faded grays and different shades of grays, and because weather ties look, they don't look like, obviously, like.
Well, they've been sun baked for so long, right?
Right.
And they, yeah, and the,
Well, it's like, yeah, it's like some of those videos that guys will do on their track weathering. It's like, you know, track is such an art form, you know, that weathered ties. You know, you have your light grays and your different shades on the ties, and I love trying to capture that. In fact, when William comes over to the other room, we'll show you the track I replaced that cardigan on the St. Paul sub. I did some of my weather ties. William, you're doing great. You're ducking down just
only
perfect.
had 2 noggin bumps. So
I'm helping him
We're
here.
good. We're good.
All right. Now here you
That
can
looks
see
like
an
a close
example
call
of my
right
weather.
there.
yeah, I should have got him a bump.
Oh, it wasn't. It actually wasn't bad. So I did this about a month and a half ago. So I needed to replace this piece of track. It was giving me some headaches. So I figure if I'm
depot.
putting a new piece in, I'll weather the ties. And
Oh, that's cool.
so that's the St. Paul sub. It takes off from the East Main at Cardigan.
Oh, it's beautiful, Bob.
Oh, there's my light. My operator's desk light was burned out, so that was a project that was bugging me. So I
Yeah,
have a
depot.
dimmer on it. There's the dimmer. See the light inside the depot
Oh,
there?
yeah.
I was showing this to William the other day, so I can make it at various brightness. So, and the same with the train order signals. I have a variable dimmer in that, so I can turn the bulbs down if I want, or we can give that guy a different lineup. We can have him go by with a green, or if he's got
that's so
orders, of course, we'll
cool.
give him a red.
Oh, nice.
And there's Mike Polsgrove's. That's his pump house. Almost every Sioux Line depot had a pump house. I think Luke's got one, if I'm not mistaken. And that's Mike. Mike does that in his laser kits.
Yeah. He's got a really cool. I have one of his Chicago Northwestern trailer depots that he did for, I think it was not for, with his 3D printed service that he offers. Really good model.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just
my
got
goodness.
I just got the Tabble.
He does
depot
the
that
horns.
he has.
Luke and I have every configuration of the horns from Mike, I think, because Mike produced all the different variations of the chimes on the horns. And
Well, he's at, let's see here,
oh, there we go, William. We can run the stream into Cardigan here.
SueParts.tech.
We'll run it onto the leg of the Y here. Yeah, SueParts.tech. It used to be .com, but I think he changed it last year.
Yeah, so I'll throw that up in the chat too, so you guys can go check out his little shop. A lot of cool stuff, and not just all Sioux Line stuff. He does have some other things out there, like the Algoma Central bulkhead gondolas. Those are cool. He's got wigwags out there. Those are nice. A lot of cool stuff that he has. So question comes in from Scott Thornton. It says, what happens, Bob, if you get too old for all the duck unders?
You know, actually, I'll figure that out when the time comes. That's
Yeah, I
my
wouldn't
answer
worry
to
about it,
that one.
right?
I might have to put another lift out here or there, and you know, I'll get somebody like William to help me do that.
There you go.
But
There
you
go.
know what? If I'm at that age where I'm having a hard time, it's like it might be time to just hang it up anyway. I'm thinking. I mean, we've got areas where you wouldn't believe for some of the scenes. In fact, William, you want to go on a little tour here real quick with me? All right, let's go to. All right, I'll show you. I've got scenes
awesome.
that. This is where 7th Street Yard used to be, and I decided I shouldn't be modeling that anyway in my era. So now, William, just stay ducked under.
Yep.
Because we're gonna go under the railroad and go under the. We just went under the Rock Island here. Now this is a lift-up bridge, but I'm hoping I don't have to lift it out. You're doing great, William.
Nope, I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
And now just stay under this duck under. This isn't bad, but
Oh, that's nothing.
okay.
All right.
And now this is where the 7th Street line came into the where they used to go into the tunnel and went into 7th Street Yard in St. Paul. And these actually were like this. I think I don't know if they're still here, but the old Wisconsin Central abutments from where they used to run the passenger trains. But the abutments were always here, but there was never, I think they took the bridge out in the 50s. And the Chicago Northwestern has if you want to come over here, William, and shoot the bridge here. And I'll show you how I model this back here. And in fact, over here, this represents Raymond Avenue in St. Paul, where the Minnesota transfer runs to. And then this is the end of the line for the St. Paul sub, for the St. Paul line. And they used to go under the CNW's bridge, and they went into the tunnel and came out of a tunnel. In fact, there's a neat shot in Wallace Abbey's little jewel book. They come out of there's like 3 tracks that come out of the tunnel in St. Paul.
Nice.
They go right into the yard. It looks like a model railroad, but now this is something that just sits back here. It's not part of running on the railroad, but we can slough cars down here if we want and just store them. But I'm modeling this when it was abandoned, so that's why I have the little flags here on the rusted mains here.
That's such a cool scene. That's you kind of got to know that it's in there, isn't it? You know, that's such a neat scene.
The CNW actually runs on this, and we come down and interchange. This bridge you see here is that. I'm sorry, William, I made a bump here. This bridge, this is the interchange track for the Soo line. So the CNW would come down out of East St. Paul and hand off maybe 5, 6, 7 a cut of cars to the Soo line, and the Soo line would come out of their yard at Jessamine and Maryland Avenue, and they went up a 5% grade to this little interchange track. And that's what you see actually on the other side with the Greenbird scrapyard.
This is amazing. I didn't see the red boards there until Chris Holschbach pointed it out, and I just caught it when William was panning back over the top.
Oh, the flags.
The flags.
Yeah, that's the end of the line now. That's the dead end. They don't go any farther. In fact, I'm guessing in my era they probably would have had a snow fence across the abutments back there.
Oh, sure.
But I'm still waiting to someday see a shot, if somebody has a shot. But what happened about 1980, that bridge, train derailed on top of that bridge, and there was some kind of structural issue, and they ended up making it a fill. So when I would go get my photos in the early 80s over here, the bridge was gone, unfortunately. But I found shots of it. Stuart Nelson had some nice shots of that bridge, so he helped me out on that immensely. And that's Westminster.
So there's a question.
That's the tower. Yeah, that's the old Great Northern, the 4-track main line at Westminster. And like I said, I have no business modeling it. It isn't part of the railroad to operate, but it's just another scene.
It's just another cool little scene that gives a little more character. That's awesome. Bob, we do have a question coming in from Steven. He says, do you model actual train consists like Luke does, or do you just put together whatever cars you feel like running to make a train?
No, I make them believable. I want to, the train 944 that you saw had pigs on the head end. So that was always a challenge for us to try to run. Back when we did operate the railroad, we tried to run piggybacks on the head end of a train on a model railroad and to go around curves. Well, using Athearn cars, it wasn't the best with, running their 85-foot piggyback cars. Well, then Athearn and Walthers in Atlas redid their cars, remember, a few years ago, and remade them from metal. And so that helps us a lot. You have a nice heavy metal flat car on the head end. So that allows us to run pigs on the head end, just like the 940 trains did back then.
Yeah, otherwise they're too heavy and they'd kind of string line, right?
Well, before, when they were just plastic, they weren't heavy enough. Just being the
that's what I meant.
Plastic
that's what
models,
I meant.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And now that they're made out of metal, and I also put weight in the containers and the trailers. That helps a lot too. But I'm waiting for Rapido to come out with their 50-foot Canadian Pacific, the 50-foot flat cars, because the Sioux had, that's what you would see on those 940s. That was a very common to see those.
Did I spy a Minnesota
There's a train.
transfer?
I see that train 21 down there. In fact, maybe we'll have to run that. Yeah, maybe we'll have to run that Minnesota transfer too here, William.
No,
Here,
yeah,
William, you know what? You want to hand me the camera?
Oh, I'll follow you.
Okay.
This is just perspectives that nobody gets this look in these areas. It's kind of neat to be able to get the opportunity to look behind here. I'm going to step back where Bob just was standing and just give you guys a look back in this room. You're actually under, Bob, are we under the front steps?
Yes. Pretty much. Of the house, yep.
Yeah, so there's just this little, you see the bump out from here to the corner, and then obviously it goes back on the other side, but he's been able to utilize this space. Is this as the Minnesota transfer on the edge here.
This is incredible.
What is more impressive is the level of modeling and how much stuff that he has that did the modeling, and it's not even on live rails at the moment, but he can fiddle yard and probably put some of these cars in. But the brake lines, the cut levers, and just the details that he puts into a lot of these cars. I'm going to duck out and we'll join Bob on the other side. He's going to bring out the Minnesota transfer.
All right. That was a cool... Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was just saying, his layout, having been there several times, it is definitely a kind of a spaghetti bowl. But once you get there,
right. That was just that
Or
drill. That's just the drill. Yep, that's all that was.
Once
God,
you
I thought
get
I
there
heard trains on the floor.
and you start following
I know what
trains.
I did, William. I didn't line my...
Once you start following trains when you're there, everything makes perfect sense the way he has it built.
Oh, there. Oh, track 9 I have to throw. Oh, for crying.
Is it just like following? I mean, I'm gonna guess that you're always on the same side of the rails. You're always following the train around. Is that what that's like, Mike?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, there isn't. I don't know that there's really anywhere where you have that change of direction, so to speak. Maybe coming out of the helix, but even at that, I don't know if there. Bob, is there anywhere? Am I right in saying that you pretty much stay on the same when you're following a train? You're pretty much staying on the same side of the rail most of the way around the layout, right?
I kind of lost a.
Do you stay oriented to be on the same side the whole time, east is west?
Oh,
west
I see
is
what you
east?
mean. I would say pretty much. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. Yep. Oh, I got it. I see what. Okay, we're gonna leave that train alone then until I can cut some gaps in there. So okay. All right, that's all right. We're gonna run the Minnesota transfer then.
Sparky
anybody
artsy.
that's been up in the Twin Cities area, the Minnesota
exactly.
transfer comes up into what's known as the pole yard, and it's where they end up processing and treating electrical poles. And in this particular area, it's now the Minnesota Commercial. Anybody that comes up in the area, you get off of 35, and there's just one of the first exits you can kind of swing in, get fairly close to this particular area. The Wisconsin Central obviously took it over. Now it's the Canadian National. But you'll see those guys come in. And this station that he's got built there, it's been rebuilt now since, right, Bob?
Well,
since this version.
The Wisconsin Central, this depot, you see my little button here? That was a deal where back many years ago, I think it was the early 90s, the Sioux line, it might have been before, that's probably the late 80s, the Sioux line, they actually moved this depot about 2 miles north of here up on the Minnesota transfer because the Sioux line was going to tear it down. And the New Brighton Historical Society glommed onto it, and you can go see the depot up in Long Lake Park now. In fact, I just saw it for the first time last fall, its new location, which has been there for, 35 years now. So
It's about time.
So it's kind of cool that they saved the old depot and moved it. But now the Wisconsin Central Railroad built a new facility, and actually theirs is built about 50 feet back towards the road. So, and it's still there, Canadian National today.
Oh,
Here we come. We're gonna come across the diamond here.
All right.
Now
Very
the stripes
cool.
on the front of this locomotive, the stripes themselves are not decals. This is Bob striping off the black and orange, or actually Pullman green and orange.
Yeah, I did. I cut those stripes out, right?
Oh my goodness.
I did 2 engines, the 305 and the 302.
Unbelievable.
And the Minnesota Transfer they did not run cabooses. They never had cabooses.
Like in the whole history of the railroad, they never had a
Nope.
caboose on the.
They never.
Wow.
And I don't believe so. In my era too of the 70s, they did not. There was never a cabooses on the Minnesota Transfer. And of course, one of my videos, my first videos I shot in 1979, there's a B&O boxcar. So of course, a couple years ago, I needed to model one. So that makes me very happy to have a B&O car in this contest now. I like to model things that I've seen, right?
Yeah.
And they
Now-
had 5, I believe they had 6 switchers. That was their whole roster. And William had these decals reproduced about, 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's probably about right.
Yeah.
And he's referring to the decal that's on the cab.
Yep. William will get a nice shot of his
get a look
decal
at
there,
this
his
one
logo. I think it's one of the neatest logos in the country was the Minnesota Transfer. The big round with the heart of Midway.
Hmm.
Because they served
got
the
a photo in your file that shows the prototype photo Bob took of one of the Heart of the Midway.
Yeah, let me see if I
Heralds.
can't pull that up while we're watching this here. So I'll share this on screen. So it should be right there, the Minnesota
Wow.
Transfer, Heart of the Midway.
There it
That is
is. Yeah, that's it. I just think it's a fine, fantastic logo.
Yeah,
It's one of my all-time favorites.
The guy here, production value is very poor here today with the guy behind the scenes. Yeah, that is a cool logo. I do like that a lot. So I was going to ask you.
I mean, anybody, even from a fun fact.
Go ahead.
I can run, William. I'll run that Superior train.
I was going to say a fun fact. If you ever do look at like the Minnesota Transfer's logo, if you look at a lot of that early 60s era into the 70s, those round heralds, the letters are actually tapered in at the bottom. And if you ever see knockoff versions, people will type out, the word Minnesota. And if you look at that Minnesota Transfer logo, you'll notice the M is tapered in tighter at the bottom versus the top.
Yeah.
The attention to detail back when they did their heralds and stuff is second to none.
That's fantastic. So let me see here. Go back to the cam here, the mobile cam.
What is that? Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm going to try to run another train here out of the staging yard, so this will
All
be
right.
kind of interesting. Yeah.
But I would say, honestly, I mean, even from my perspective, being a younger modeler, I've known Bob for a number of years and gotten to know him a lot better recently. But his prototypical viewpoint, for some people, I think back in the day, they would refer to him as a rivet counter. I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's just modeling more to the prototype. And that's definitely what works for something, for different modelers. It's not for everybody, but his horn placements, whether it's painting, a lot of these cars in the yard you're going to find are custom, one-off. He goes off of photographs. Bob, is it true that most of the stuff you have on this railroad, you have either a photo of or try to represent it as close as you can?
Yeah, and it'll bother me if I can't find a photo of where the ACI plate and the lube plates are placed, because that is a very important thing when you model the 70s, to have your ACI plates in the correct spots. And
Right. So Bob,
so
what
this
train are
that
we
we're
queuing
running
up
now
there?
out of the staging yard is this is a train number 77, ran from Superior, Wisconsin down the Superior line down through Withrow and through Dresser, Wisconsin, and They abandoned that line, I think, in the mid '80s, and that's why I'm justifying having the Misabi engines on there, because the Sioux would, mostly in the winter months, through April, and then the Misabi engines would go back up to the Iron Range. But in my my era of 1977 in the summer, they could maybe do some power equalization once in a while.
Sure. Just to. It was common though to see those DMIR units out and about in the winter months, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, right. I mean, even in the mid '90s, I remember down here at Northtown Yard, the BN, there was, in the middle of summer, there was 3 of them. For some reason, they had 3 of them down here in the Twin Cities.
So this train that you're pulling out, Bob, where is it going to traverse?
He's going from Superior, Wisconsin, down to through Withrow. Now he's going to come up to Cardigan. So he's going to go up the Helix.
Okay.
Hmm. Let me see if
very appropriate to have Canadian cars in this train. So of course I have my DSS&A boxcar in there from Duluth. That's perfect. But although it's Sioux line here, but any Canadian cars is perfect for this train. British Columbia, Canadian National, coming down from the DWP.
Oh, that's really cool. So the makeups of the trains, obviously you're putting that research in to say, yep, it's going to be a good mix of Canadian cars, Northern Midwest, those types of things.
Unfortunately,
we lost you on that one, Andy.
That's okay. It wasn't a really good question. There we go. I was just asking the question. So then when you make up your consists, you're putting in the research to figure out, like, what's the mix of cars from the certain regions around the North America, right? So you're,
yes.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, I'm trying not to run cars that probably didn't run down here. On this area of the railroad, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. So we're gonna come up the Helix now, and
he's coming out. He's just going up the Helix now. I was gonna run this train 21, but I have a short circuit when I throw the switch, so I'll have to. That'll be another project to put on the old list. But this thing seems to be running okay here, so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Bob. You're gonna say something there before I cut you off there.
No, William showed that's at Cardigan. There's that new center depressed flat car from Class 1 models. I use the Walthers transformer load. That Walthers, they sell it as a kit.
Yeah.
And that I painted it a very pale blue, because Rick Johnson has that great article from that 1980 model railroader, and those came out of that RTA transformer factory in Waukesha.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our project. William knows about it, but Luke and I are talking about it. We want to somehow get the flat cars made, the transformer flat cars that the Sioux line had, because they would ship the barrels of oil and the cooling fins on those Sioux line flat cars.
Oh, a little shorty tank car there.
I happened to mention that to William, that, oh, geez, I want to do one of these tank cars, William. I want to have Bill Brillinger do the decals for him. And William says to me, well, Bob, I have one of those cars. Athern did it. And they did the same number that I was going to model. So William actually gave that to me. So that's kind of a neat car. I haven't been able to really talk about it on Facebook yet, but I just have so many projects I've been working on.
And the verbiage that's on the side of the car, Bob, do you read that word for word, or want to at least tell us how many lines there are?
No, there's 32 lines.
Whoa!
And so, of course, Bill Brillinger wanted to know what the line said, and I said, I have no idea. So we finally figured it out somehow, and he actually made those decals for me. So, because they had about 3 different numbers that I could do. So I actually plan on doing a few. That's that shorty tank that Athern retooled.
Yeah.
That little beer can tank.
That's what they call it, the beer can tanker.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm just waiting I'm trying my darndest to find some inaccuracy here, like a car or something to call you out on. But
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
how about a 1978 Pacer? Call me
Yeah,
out
how
on that
about
one.
that?
That
Yeah.
I ordered it on eBay, and I don't think they make a 77. But of course, I told William, I said, of course they changed the grill in 78. But you know what? I think, like William said, the grill was still the same in 77. Someone will call you out on stuff like that, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Now, William put some weathering in the grills for me.
So we weathered the grill, and then also we ended up putting the license plate on it. Did headlights, did a license plate on the back. Bob doesn't know this, but the license plate is actually
Did you put a license plate?
1977.
Oh, I love
is.
it. Thank you
But
so
his
much.
tabs are expired.
Oh, typical.
That's a detail. That's a detail. He's not going to know. It should have been a red tab instead of a blue tab.
Here, let's see if we can get a little. Hey, let's see
Should
if
have
we
had
can
a
get a little
steamer
light on there,
pulled
William.
over.
There we go. Yeah, right. I'll have to have a state trooper, Minnesota state trooper car with some flashing lights on there.
There you go.
The 78 Pacer goes perfectly with that 78 Evans side slider car. You got some 78 kind of working its way in here. You going to change airs, Bob?
No, I hope not. No, Frank Jordan knows how I am about that era. It's like Frank will find a car for me, but Frank knows that too. That if it's 78, it'll bug me. So.
Yeah. And that's that Evans all door car, William. That's what we're talking about, right?
That's right. The one that's just kind of in the distance behind that car or the train that's passing.
That is a huge thing, that model coming out, because that if you're in the Twin Cities here, you'll know about those M&S cars. It's like that's a never before seen car. That is really neat that Matt Herman came out with that.
If we're talking prototype, just one thing for people to even note on that particular car, an Evans can be identified without the actual, there's no plug, hardware. There's no vertical, piping. So an Evans is identified by the two doors on the ends, which we're used to seeing. Walters did a very nice Thrall. So the Thrall company made an all door. This one is known as an Evans side slider. And again, that's all 3D printed. This was done by Matt Herman. I painted it and decaled it.
Beautiful.
Artwork, but Bob's got to get one, but Bob's going to do his with the right number, and it will be 477.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what's going on with our train now?
Well, that train just came through Cardigan. That's our Superior train, and he's going down to Shoreham. So he's got an old plywood caboose on that one.
Oh.
I've done things to cabooses. I've taken nickel plate brass cabooses, and I put plywood sides on it. So they're not worth anything to a collector, but they're worth something to a Sioux Line modeler.
Yeah.
Because the Sioux Line did that to most of their wood cabooses, their wood sheathed cabooses. They plywood sided them, and that's basically what they did. They put 4x8 sheets of plywood on the sides of the cabooses.
I didn't know that.
In fact, yep.
He's got some around. If I see one, I'll give you guys a good look up close on one.
Okay.
The one that you're running, it has blotted windows, but he's
Well,
referring to
some
one
of
the
them-
whole cupola got.
The ones you see like on the Rock Island transfer, the Rocky Sioux transfer. Tom Murray talked about that in his article a few years ago in the Sioux Line Society's issue. Was the common caboose on that was caboose 208. It was a plywood side, and the cupolas were boarded up, and they had a little yellow placard on the side that said "Transfer Service Only." And they had a few transfer service only cabooses. Some were up in Superior, and so the cupola windows were boarded up for some reason, and they were transfer cabooses. And it's funny because one of my first photos I took back in like 1971, right up here of a Rocky Sioux transfer coming up the hill, had two maroon Rock Island F units, and there was that caboose 208 in my terribly taken shot. But it's like you can see the 208 on it.
Let me see here.
And here comes our Here comes our run through Masabi power here on this, for all you Masabi fans out there.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Should we try to come to a stop this time at the stop sign here, William, or should we blow through it again?
You can do it as prototypically as you like.
Okay, we'll see what we can do here.
Hammered down.
Here comes our, like I said, this is a 4-way. Now Douglas Hildebrand will pull shots. He'll take over here. And he'll blow their horn there. And he'll get questions, you know, oh, I didn't have my toggles. Oh, shoot, there. You know, because my diamond is metal, so if I don't have my toggles in the right position.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Short circuit.
Oh, of course. But
Yep.
Douglas, you'll get comments on Facebook about the interlocking. And so Douglas is pretty good about explaining that. The CTC went in 1982 at the diamond here. So before that, like I said, it was a 4-way stop sign, just like at a road.
And that would have been detailed in the timetable then, right?
It
stop
probably would
at-
have. And like I said, that was what they called yard limit rules. So it's kind of nice that I don't have to worry about signaling my railroad like Luke had to do.
Oh, yeah.
Although he does a fantastic job on his signals. I don't know. I dabbled a little bit down on the Inver Grove line, going out south of Inver Grove on the. I model a spot called Rosemount, and there's a siding there. Once again, I probably have no business modeling that on the railroad, but it's just kind of cool. It's at a spot where you can't really access very well. But last year I put Azatrax signals on there, the ABS signals, and they're pretty cool. They work really nice with the little infrared detectors, and you don't have to worry about your wheels knocking the circuit down.
Yeah.
And they work fantastic. This is the same with my signal crossing signals. They're either photocells or infrared, and I like to use Chuck Stencil's logic rails. That's what I use for my detection circuits and my crossing signals. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to give you a look at that Azatrack that he's referring to is over at these crossings right in here. These are the ones that he has it installed. And then as far as people want to see kind of what's underneath, is the board. Where are the boards? You've shown me them.
What board is that?
The Azatracks for your
Oh,
crossing.
they're down here, William.
Oh,
They're
see,
down-
okay,
there's-
I didn't.
there
I
you
gotta
can-
look
There
down
you can
over
see
here.
the signal for
There you
out
guys
of
go.
Inver Grove is lined for a high green for the main there.
So this.
Oh, there's the board. Yep.
There's the board that he's referring to, and then the signals that hook onto that particular one right back here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if we throw that signal, William, for the siding, you'll
Yep.
keep shooting that, and you'll see the signal knock down. It take a few seconds, just like the prototype. It should line in for that siding now. There you go, and then the top
wow.
will go red. So that's the Azatrax system, and it's pretty cool. And then you can see from here, you can see way down there, you can see the other end of the siding down there. There's a pot signal. It's just how they.
yeah.
Way down in here. That's
Yeah.
where you guys are looking.
So he's lined to go south to a staging yard that I call Manly, Iowa. So I can run these. I can actually
That's
shove
one toggle he threw.
slough cars down there, and we can actually run trains down to Manly if we want. Like I said, there's so many areas of this railroad that this is the
Unbelievable.
this is the bridge down at Rosemount, down at the refinery, and that's a shot. There's Greg Smith and Dave Zupan up on the bridge, and this is the spine line, where the spine line goes under the old Chicago Great Western, and that's how the Sioux line accessed the Roseport refinery. So I actually can run those Roseport trains.
Look at that.
Kind of a-
Wow.
That is incredible.
You're seeing the other side of the bridge, actually, the side Greg shot, his shot from
Oh,
the
it is too.
Yeah, because there's the steps on the other side in the
right.
abutment, right? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. That is crazy. That is really cool.
Bob, I've got a question for you about an industry on your layout back by where the Minnesota Transfer Junction and everything is.
Okay.
that when William gets back over that way.
William is trying his darndest to not hit his head
doing-
right
or
now.
he's
You're doing great, William.
Where are you at, Mike?
Okay, the blue warehouse in the corner, right up there, the abandoned warehouse, or abandoned industry.
Oh,
No,
that's
was that an actual functional industry on the layout at one time, or
no, that's Cohen Steel. In fact, today they call it rebar, and it actually got served by the Minnesota Transfer and by the Sioux Line. So they had two spurs that went into that steel complex, and it's called Cohen Steel back in my era. And the transfer J36 will still switch that occasionally.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And it's just it looks abandoned, but the windows are just boarded up. In fact, they've always been boarded up, I think.
Bob. That
Oh,
the way
thank
that
you.
it looks, and the way you have the tracks set up, and the way everything is weathered, that looks just like it's a non-industry anymore. Like from there, you can't even
Right?
see that there's rails there, but there are.
It's kind of neat that it really looked that way too.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's a
with this
really
whole
neat
scene.
building.
Same with the whole scene at Highway 8. William knows this area very well. That's old Highway 8, and the Sioux Line, it was the double track. Now it's just single track. Douglas Hildebrandt just took drone shots. They just replaced that crossover switch because they had a little section of the old East Main still in, so they could switch Cohen. Well, now they went back this couple months ago and they reconfigured it. They took the old Bell crossover out, and they don't they don't go into Bell Telephone anymore, but they still serve Cohen. So all they did is put the switch into the old West Main, and they go down there now that way. But Douglas took some really cool drone video of them doing that.
And how about the white building in the distance? I know there's a little story behind that.
Oh, that's the Bell Telephone, Northwestern Bell Telephone. So I had a guy down my basement about a year ago to try to find. They never could find my static in our phone line, our hard phone line. So I got rid of the hard. It's gone. So it's just the cell phone now. So the guy's down here looking at the wire, and he looks over at that building and says, "I just came out that door this morning." It's like, because all that is a photo of the real building that I copied out on my printer. It probably took me 10 attempts to get the right size, but that's the size. I measured the size of the door. I think it was like 15 feet. And that I could tell what size to model the door then. And
there you go.
What size to reduce it to. So all that is foam core. Same with that pink building back there. All that is foam core with a printed out photo of the real building.
I'll be darned.
Wow.
You're not going to get close enough to see detail. It's not going to be in a contest. It looks great from back here. It looks fantastic. And last year I had time. I'm retired. I redid my poles, my AC poles. I just went and took current shots of them because pretty much those poles probably haven't changed through the years. So
Oh my goodness.
I used a little LED for that light for the lamp on the one pole.
Now
Yeah,
I have a picture of that, don't I, Bob?
You do have a picture of that. You should, yes.
Let me see if I can pull that example up to show everyone on how you modeled that.
While you're doing that, William will shoot this Superior train coming down at Polk Street here.
Yeah, just to give you guys, this is the model versus the picture of the real thing there. You can see he's got the little, the climber rungs on the pole in the exact same spots. Transformers.
That's so cool.
Isn't that just fantastic? Well, now with, everything's on YouTube, right? And it's to see how these other modelers are doing things, and it just inspires you to do stuff like that. I love seeing how other modelers do things. I can always learn something new, it's never
Well,
too
you got to
late,
have a
right?
Loam boxcar.
Oh,
an
in this train here?
Yeah, the Loam boxcar, the old Penn Central boxcar. Yeah. You got to have one of them.
Oh, yeah, that was the old scheme. Yeah, that was. Now, believe it or not, that car, William, that was about a few years ago. I was going to model that. I found a really neat shot on the internet of that. You're talking about the Loam car, right?
Yeah,
the little green one that has it has the stenciled over Penn Central, right? Where they.
Yep.
Well, that's from a real photo. Well, it turned out, so I go to my hobby shop. I go up to Becker's here in New Brighton. He retired now. I wish he was still there, but because he was 3 miles from my house. But anyway, there was a Katie model, a Katie box car, right? And I'm looking at the Katie car. I'm like, yeah, this thing would work. But it turns out, so I get it home. I basically cut the sides and the ends and the roof off. I basically made a Katie car into a kit because I had to take 4 inches off the top of the sides because those cars had shorter sides. And,
How did you do that?
Oh, I just cut the sides out, and here I have these sides sitting there on my table, my bench, right? And I basically using a Dremel with the saw blade in it. Yeah, wow. Some of this stuff, it's just it's not for the faint of heart, you know. It's like, let's take a Katie boxcar and make it into a kit, right? And because somebody's gonna ask you about it on the old Facebook. It's like, those cars have shorter. It's like, yeah, and this does. Well, you can see compared to that BN car next to it, right?
Yeah, there's a difference in the height, right?
Yeah, you gotta have it the right way, or the right. And you know what? Everything else matched. The ends are correct. I had to take one of the dreadnoughts out to make it the right height, but it seemed to work. So, and once again, Bill Brillinger did those decals. That William turned me on to Bill. He does great work, and
yes,
he's fast.
He does.
He's fast too, isn't he?
Yep.
Yes. Precision Design Company. He's very good.
You guys, by the way, are sounding really good on our end here. I'm hearing you guys loud and clear. So
good.
Just
good.
Some needless information, right?
But I think it's funny that Mike is wearing his Milwaukee Road T-shirt, even though he's trying to fight the Sioux Line influence tonight. But
oh boy,
yeah.
I did that kind of on purpose to see if William would have said something, but
look. So there's a good shot of that caboose then.
Now William is. We're gonna try to go into the staging yard with the Superior train here. So
okay.
So I'm gonna line the staging yard here. So now he's lined now. Okay, here we come, coming down the hill here.
Bud.
Oh,
that wasn't my head. That was my foot.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought you brained yourself there. But yeah.
No. Here's one of those that he referred to as
the
patched out. You look at the cupola.
Oh, it says transfer service only, right? Or on it or something?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's what the sign. That's what the little yellow sign would say. It says transfer service only.
So he does have one in there.
That's really good. That's awesome detail.
Yeah, I had those were. Oh, I've been known to take lettering one letter at a time and make signs like that. But
well, your bus has that, right?
Yeah. Well, that was actually, I printed that out on my printer, and I was able to reduce it to the correct side, and it was kind of neat when I put it in the board. It actually lights up, and you see the 4B Bryant Johnson through there. So that was actually kind of a neat project. But yeah, your video that you do on those buses, William, that's what really inspired me to want to get one of those.
That was a good video.
That's the Rapido bus, by the way. And somebody locally does that bus in that color, because the Twin Cities bus was that weird rust color.
Yeah, if you look, it's Carrera Designs, a gentleman by the name of Greg here locally. He produced them, had a limited run. I do believe they're still available. So anybody that's in the Twin Cities, if you're looking for a accurate MTC bus, I've got photos of them into 86 and beyond. So I think, Bob, the original red showed up in 1971, 72, something like that.
Yep, that makes sense. Oh, shoot. Hit something there. By the way, those are the Mike Paulsgrove's
trailers.
The trailers.
Oh,
the grain trailers. And that's Luke Lemon's concept for doing the tarps. And he uses duct tape. And I'm like, well, I probably talked to Luke about this 3 or 4 times. I said, Luke, are you kidding me? Now, let me get this straight. You use duct tape for those tarps, and it works perfect. and you just merely paint it your favorite color.
And remember, it's aluminum duct tape,
and it's
not,
very thin. That's
not
why
the
it
silver
makes
duct tape that we're used to
yeah,
hold our cars together.
It's actually the silver duct tape that goes around the ductwork, and
Yes.
it's very thin.
It's actual
and
metal, and that's
it
what gives those ribs.
That's why it looks like a real tarp when you paint it.
And what did you use to create the rib mark?
I think I just used the end of my tweezers, the round part, and and make it look like the like. See, Luke actually made a load where the braces are just sitting in there, and there's no tarp on it.
Yeah, he's got the tarp is all rolled up and on the front of the trailer, something like that.
You got it,
right?
Mike. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, just more works of art. I'm just seeing William pan past different locomotives and different pieces of rolling stock. It's fantastic.
I know, and we're only seeing the stuff that's out in the open and available to see. I mean, like out in the yard there's all sorts of cars over there that
there's so many things to see down here. Like William might have to go shoot those his flat cars with the pipe loads over there.
Oh, he brought those too?
Those I modeled those because William went and did that video, and it's like, oh, okay, I got to do some.
Here, guys, and this is Bob.
You see him up there, William, up in
Jessamine there? These are red caboose.
There you go.
Flat cars. And a load done by Iowa Scaled. And I think that's, if you guys are going to somebody's going to be able to correct in the group, but they're the grain. What is the grain?
Oh yeah, Iowa
Grain
Scale
belt
Engineering,
models?
the grain belt models. That was it. So I got like 4 boxes of those at St. Louis about 3 years ago.
So Bob obviously painted those into an aluminum or a silver, did all the bracing on them. The M&S had these, they had a set of them, the 700, the 714, and these particular cars were done in tandem. They end up splitting them later in the Sioux Line era, which shows up in post 82. But the cars were ordered with Brandon's tie downs on 2 of the 3 newest sets. Wow. And Bob even has the plate in between that they had a plate. And it's numbered as an A end and a B end. And as you can see, his number is only on the right side. The other side of the car obviously will have the other reporting mark. But that's an accurate car to the M&S. And again, Bob, you could see how easy he had removed these loads. And just a pretty simple process of being able to get those things put together.
Now, we've been talking about the MN&S quite a bit this evening. And did we want to talk about one of the other little bits of our outline that we had?
Some kind of deal going on with somebody doing something about the M&S. I don't know.
Well, anybody that has any questions about the M&S, we're going to give you guys actually a brief look, and Andy even has a little bit better look at what we've got. But we've got a bag of goodies, and not many people have seen.
Ooh,
these,
this is good. This is going to be neat.
We've got all. So we're talking
Look at that.
And in terms of content, what this is going to actually do, I've compiled an entire roster from 1907 until 1995. The Sioux Line bought the M&S in 1982, and in 1985 they absorbed them when the Milwaukee Road absorbed, and they started painting over all the equipment. But these books themselves, they're compiled of as much information from locomotives. Give you guys a brief look inside of one of them. Now this is
all 3 covers are all 3 books are the same, right? On the inside?
That is correct. So the inside is all the same, the content's all the same, all the cars and information is going to be the same, but what we've got is a different cover and a different color, right? So the primary book is going to come out in the yellow, but I am going to do a special run just for the Sioux Line Historical Society, and anybody that orders the Sioux Line, the white version, that's going to just be a limited run, but I'm going to donate a portion of the proceeds to the Sioux Line Historical Society for helping me out, because they provided so much information on the AFEs. The guys that were at the Historical Society, I drove out to Appleton. Their help was just fantastic. And then also they're going to be redoing the number 11 up at the Superior Duluth Museum. So if you see the blue cover, I'm going to donate a portion of the proceeds from this one to the Sioux Line, or to the Duluth Superior Museum, that's going to repaint the M&S number 11. So if anybody has any interest in ordering one or all, Andy, you do have a link or a graphic that you could throw up that if you do have a cell phone or an ability to be able to scan the QR code, you can scan that QR code and enter in and submit. This is a pre-order. I'm going to do a limited number of these books. There are not going to be very many of the blue. There are not going to be very many of the white. In fact, the blue ones are already half sold out. The white ones are getting close. And then the red ones are going to be the most common. But that's going to be the standard copy. But again, anybody that has any interest in trying to find some of that information on the M&S, it's definitely, I think, worthwhile. If you guys ever want to check out, accuracies, or even just historical information, I think it's probably the most thorough railroad book beyond what Morning Sun has done. This is going to be close to 200 pages in volume, so it's not going to be your traditional 128. I'm actually working with a printer that is on the rails of a railroad, so Progressive Rail serves them. And how better to have a book that was printed by a company that received their paper via rail. I mean, it ends up being pretty cool. So the relationship that was happening there, it's definitely kind of fun. But anybody that has any interest in the M&S books, if you don't get the QR code to actually read, Andy's got the link up there too. You can go to tinyurl.com/M&S book. And Mr. Bob Rivard is in the book, so his photos, he's got this car that's sitting here. If you want to cut back to his railroad, the M&S number 602, Bob has a couple of great shots of the 602 with, I want to say it was the 601 together.
So.
And it was near Shoreham?
Yep, it was coming out of, it was on at CP University at Shoreham.
But as much as books may seem like they're dead, I'm not kidding. The photos that I found and was able to acquire, it's second to none. So if you're doing research like Bob does and you're looking to model the prototype, that's a perfect book for anybody that has interest in the M&S.
Yeah.
Should we run upstairs and look at
we're going to take a look. We're going to follow Bob up here. We're going to go up and take a look at his layer.
This is my project room.
If you want to cut away, Andy, if you have any photos of some of Bob's work while I make the transition up there, you pull it up, and then I'll bebop up there.
All right.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you thought the layout was something, wait till you see this room.
I can't imagine.
It's insane. I mean, I've never been in an area or somebody's shop that's had more research material out in the open than Bob's got in his room.
I can only imagine.
Just wait until you see it.
I'm going to start him on the chassis plate here.
All right, now we're in the
we're
train
in Bob's lair. We were just passing. He's got a new cat in the house.
Yeah, we got two new cats. That's Bubby. These are our new cats.
Hey,
our
Bubby.
cats.
Hi, Bubby.
He's 4 years old. And then,
but this is Bob's lair.
Squish likes to. No, Squish isn't there. Squish was there before, but
look at this
else.
office.
That's a Bubby. Anyway, this is my work room. I'm real lucky to be able to have this.
He didn't model just the Sioux line. You can see Great Northern, DWP, Santa Fe. And I'm going to give you guys kind of a close look at some of this stuff.
What's kind of neat when I was putting this in, my better half Vicky said, "Well, why don't you do a wall of trains?" And I'm like, "You're going to let me do that? Wow, that's cool." So that's what this is. This is the Frank Jordan concept of doing shelves. He uses plywood, and you go to Menards and you get the finishing strips, and you can blow one of these out in like a day. Well, probably 2 days. Cool. But it's a great way to do shelves for your models.
Oh, that's so cool. That is really cool. And then, how did you anchor them to the wall?
Oh God, I lost sleep about that. It's like, I better stick another, I better put another bolt in there, a couple bolts, but they're basically, I found the studs was kind of the magic to that. I wanted to make sure I found the studs because you'll see screws in these somewhere and
so you created this whole shelving system and then mounted it.
Right.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's
two pieces. It's two
pieces.
It's like this is a full 4x8 sheet of, well, not quite 4, but and then the other half was this half, the end here. You can kind
Yeah.
of actually see the seams there, but it's all, like I said, I found the studs because I lose sleep about these things coming down. You wouldn't want that to. Oh, anyway, here's I was showing William today my GHQ kit. They make a nice little front end loader. So there's the.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they're it's not bad, you know. I did my tires last night and came up with a reasonable scale coat too. It's probably Union Pacific yellow. It makes a good cat yellow. It's pretty close. So.
Oh yeah.
And they give you their operator they give you is really nice. It's a little metal casting, but I left his helmet yellow and I'll be putting the tires on there. And
Here's his prototype
there it
photo of
is.
that tank, and there's all that
Oh
lettering.
my gosh.
right.
So Bob counted the
Holy
rows.
cow.
So he
There's these. So now you're seeing
handle with care.
Yes. There's our Rick Johnson article from the.
Oh,
Model
I
Railroader.
remember that issue.
Remember that?
I
Yep,
remember
he's-
that
all-
article. I
all
might
the
even have that
information-
floating around somewhere.
All the information about these flat cars and the transformer loads are in this art. It was a fantastic art, and of course Rick modeled the car from an Athearn back then.
It's
'Cause that's all they
issue
had.
October of 1990 model railroader, right?
Yes. No, actually
Or is it
1980 model railroad.
Oh, 1980. Yes,
Yep.
there's the date.
Now Rick, and I did this too when I built mine, but Rick Scratch built his transformer load, and Walters bases their kit on Rick's article. So you want to get the Walters kit for your transformer loads because those are the ones that came out of Waukesha. So that's when you're modeling the Class 1 center depressed flat car, you know, I want to have a Walters on there because that's the RTA load.
So was those loads were made in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and then trucked out?
No, they're shipped out on rail.
Shipped out on rail.
Special Sioux Line had special flat cars. They have these little chain pockets that have they look like little saw blades on the top. And
Oh my
we're working
goodness.
with Mike Paulsgrove to try to see if he can make some of these things for us with his 3D printing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, even on a
so
WC, we were shipping those like
there's-
that on the WC stills
Right.
too.
I think the factory's still there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
there's a
don't know how
nice-
much they do anymore.
Okay, now look at this, you guys. There's from Rick's article, 1980. That's the same number. I bought it on eBay a couple months ago. I had to have one. It's the same number that Walters did for their center depressed 4-axle flat car. So that'll end up with one of the transformers.
That's awesome.
And you can see the Sioux Line cars that have the cooling fins and the barrels. And I've modeled a couple of them, but they're such a pain because I use an MDC car and I want to have the correct number of state pockets and
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Look at that rust.
Yeah.
Dan Holbrook provided me on the Facebook, he provided me with the prototype photo of that. That's just the Intermountain car. Came out with those Great Northern schemes a couple years ago. And I wanted to match that. When I saw that Dan Holbrook's photo was taken I believe it's taken in 1980, that meant I can duplicate that rust pattern exactly like that.
No, Bob, you kit bashed. It was on this particular flat, and it is this flat here.
It's actually that one.
Oh, it's up here.
Yeah, it's that one. I did another. That's just another number, but
That's these two.
That's all that is the Athearn retooled flat car, the metal one. So that's from a gentleman that gave a clinic at St. Louis last summer. He did it on trailer train flat cars, and he provided me that shot that you see with that Union Pacific flat car on there. Because see, you can see where the lube plates were and.
Now, Bob didn't just do all HO, because Bob, he's got larger scale models as well.
Really?
He's got, he's got a G scale in his backyard.
That's one of the famous Sioux Line potato cars in G scale, and that's Marv Koenig and I have talked about that many times doing the potato cars.
Look at the coupler.
I model 1970 in my backyard, so it's of course the equipment doesn't stay out there in the winter, but That's G scale is just neat. I just love it, and I do air wire in my engine so I don't have to keep the track clean. Should we see if this thing still has a charge in it?
He turned it on.
Let's see. There it comes.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know where my throttle is, but it's. I don't even know if
I'll
there's any.
be darned.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Wow.
Isn't that something?
I know. Look at this. Oh, there's Jeep 30s there.
Yeah.
I know. I'm gonna have to tell Kristen that we're gonna have to get started on the Garden Railroad.
There you have it. There you go.
I mean, if I'm doing all this work and building her a greenhouse, I think we got to have it.
I'm gonna have to talk to Joy about doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Now remember the ground should have ground lights on here. So remember the CB and Q they didn't have strobe flashes. They had Mars lights. So there's our.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
If I put it on the ground, it'll run, so I'll just hold it.
Yeah, the trucks are going.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Listen to the sound on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's more impressive in person.
Oh my goodness.
Jeez, this will wake the neighbors. I squish. I see the other cat there. And one of these makes this. I can't remember which one does the smoke. I think it's maybe this one might do smoke. I have no idea if there's any smoke fluid still in here.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible.
I think I don't know if it's my imagination, but I think I see smoke starting to come out of it, but maybe not. I might need. It might be. Yeah, there is some smoke coming out of there, William.
Just a little bit.
So,
I can see the heat.
Yeah, so it's got a little fluid left over from operating this fall. I run this thing. If you can keep the snow off the track, you can run it in the winter.
I was going to ask
there you
you.
go.
So
There
how?
comes
Yeah, there you go. How?
Well, I used to do rail DC through the rails, and then it's like, no, I got to do air wire. Marv Koenig talked me into that. It's like, hey, Bob, you got to get into air wire. So and it's like a model airplane. See?
Yeah, right.
There's some nice smoke. Look at that. That's cool. Oh, cool. Now that makes me happy. In fact, you know what? We're gonna have to shut it off because oh boy, we're getting a little smoke in here. You get the brake squeals and.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's even got a little GE action up here.
Boy, it's really smoking now.
The smoke alarms are going to go off here.
So that number board is from the actual 804. One of the Sue's. Well, in fact, hold on. There, quiet ascends over the world now. So Rick Johnson's fantastic artwork. He actually he gave me that one of his famous drawings last year. That's that one of the Jeeps. But this one of course is mine that I framed from one of the society's issues, because he produces his artwork and you can obtain his artwork through the society. So it comes rolled up, and you put it in a frame. But there you can see the Sue's GEs. Now there's the 805, and I have the number board of the 804. And that I thought that'll be a neat place to put it with a bulb behind there.
Oh, that is cool.
And make it however bright we want. So a friend of mine who was a dispatcher years ago on the Sioux line, they were junking their GEs. They were going to ship them to Fond du Lac, and he obtained that number board for me. So.
And no shortage of research. I mean, Bob, you got a great library and collection. Even with your little NBC Peacock, yeah, Bob used to work with NBC.
Used to be on one of my jackets, and so Vicky tore it off before we got rid of the jackets. Yeah, good old NBC Peacock. See these. You guys are too young to remember, but all the NBC shows started with the Peacock unfolding
Did it? Oh, it's the 3 bars originally.
The following program is brought to you in living color by NBC, and you'd hear the
Bum bum
jingle.
bum.
Now I don't
Is
know.
that
You
Yeah.
probably heard that. But you would hear the little jingle they had. So it's just so nostalgic. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So I mean, we've covered quite a bit here, Bob, this evening. What's next? So what's next for you? And we're kind of fade. Your sound's fading out just a hair, but
I hope not. But anyway, I'll go to a slideshow that Frank Jordan will buy slides on eBay, and he showed me this slide, and so now I modeled that car. That car is down on the railroad somewhere.
oh
And
dang.
this tank car I just did last year, and that's another Bill Brillinger decals. But the same with the reefers. The reefers are from photos I'm finding on the internet and from the freight car color guides. And but yeah, as you can see, they're the exact numbers. So those are painted and decaled. So those will go down on the railroad.
And a wide variety of brush selection. You don't have any.
Oh yeah, there's my brush. That's nice.
Yeah.
In my parts drawers of.
This is quite the dedicated shop.
There's my lumber loads. I'm constantly working on lumber loads lately, with wrapped lumber loads. And I came up with that way to do lumber loads. You saw them on the flat cars down at Cardigan, where I take balsa wood and I wrap plastic garbage bags, so it gives you that nice shiny wrinkled plastic look that you see in real lumber loads. And I had Bill Brillinger do decals, so he did these Boise Cascade. Is that upside down? There we go. He did these Boise Cascade decals for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I apply them to the garbage bag, shiny garbage trash bag liners, right? I apply them as a decal, and it works. It works fantastic. And so he'll make you a whole sheet of.
Oop.
Oh, did his thing die?
I think they're running out of battery because they're doing it mobile.
You pull us out of. Are we still there?
Yeah, I
we
think
are
I got
now.
you back.
Well, we might as well give you an opportunity to at least wrap it up here.
Yeah.
I probably smoke from too much smoke in the room from the engine.
Yeah. We're smoked out. Yeah.
You have one bullet, Bob, for workbench of the month for the.
For workbench of the month.
Here's my HO scale version. I don't even know if it's the same number. Is it the same? No, it's 002, I guess. Okay.
Oh, this is fantastic.
I
So
don't
this,
know why. Don't ask me why I've modeled, but it's just, I growing up in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, I remember the Northern Pacific. I remember Great Northern. And guys like Greg Smith has photos of this stuff he was taking, and the Burlington and.
Well, I would honestly say if anybody knows the Twin Cities area, it is the Greg Smith, the John Hill, the Bob Rivard. These guys are the ones that were capturing a lot of the stuff that we look back at. We're fortunate. I got to thank Bob for sharing a lot of that information. Same to John Hill, Greg Smith, and you guys that are willing to share that information, because that's what allows us to be able to create this stuff that we create in the model world. And of course, we're inspired by a gentleman like Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I've been following Bob for quite a while now, through a lot of the stuff, with what Luke's posted, but then his own stuff on Facebook and through the Sioux Line Historical Society and all that good stuff. And it's just fantastic. And it's inspiring to me because, it makes me want to model the prototype to that level that he does.
Ooh, what book is that, Bob?
This is I have the whole series, I believe, of these, the classic freight car series. Well, what's interesting about this is that that's a few months ago, another project I got myself into. Let's see, I'm looking for TPW here. Let's see. TP and W should be in here. Let's see. There it is. So I have to look for page 26, it looks like. Okay, hold on one second, because what's kind of neat about this, you talk about being inspired by certain. So this car, this car, I was telling Frank Jordan about it. Well, Frank happened to have one. He had one of the tangents, because you can't get them right
nice.
now. They're not.
Yeah, right.
Well, I have a video taken in 1979 at New Richmond. They're shoving it at Doughboy Mills, and it's this same number. Same number is on my video in this shot taken in 1981, but my video shows this actual car at New Richmond. So when Frank had that car for me, it's like that. So you saw that downstairs. That was on the freeway bridge, on the 35W bridge. But stuff like this is cool. I just love it. When you find a shot like this to model a car from, and of course you can see the ACI plate and where the loop plate should go, and stuff like
Wow.
this is just neat. There's my
So-
scratch-built Sioux-Line O-scale caboose. I have to bring that to the next convention because it's just kind of a neat thing. I did that. I did
Wow.
that from a 1958 model railroader article, and back then they built them out of wood. They had just come out with evergreen styrene, so I was able to use evergreen styrene on mine. But no,
Isn't that beautiful?
somewhere there's a. Is it this side that has the? Somewhere there's a reed switch on this thing, and it turns the. Well, it must be over here somewhere.
He's got the. Oh my goodness! Look at the interior.
I was trying
Yeah,
to
no
figure it
kidding,
out.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the interior. Like I said, that was one of my first scratch build projects back in the day. Back like in
Holy
1980, I did
cow.
that.
Jeez.
What?
Whew.
That's incredible.
It is. So, I guess, Bob, one last question here
Sure.
before we tie down for tonight.
Yep.
So, if you were to give any advice to someone who wants to get into prototype model railroading, what would you want to impart upon them to get started?
Well, books. You know, your books like what inspired and helped Luke and I were the Sioux-Line books, like the Patrick Dorn
Oh yeah,
book, the Wallace Abbey's Little Jewel, of course the societies, you know, of course here's the famous Sandcar project. When my
Yep.
this was my I know I got sidetracked a little on you guys. I know, sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
I have to tell the Sandcar story real quick.
sure.
So a couple of years ago, I posted on Luke's second sub page about my Sandcar. Years ago, it fell on the floor of my roundhouse, which I did all the lettering, one letter at a time back then. And what do you think, Luke? How can we? Well, next thing you know, Mike Paulsgrove produced the roofs, the correct roofs, and the sand appliances that go on the bottom. And we used Bowser was the car body we used. So it ended up being a society project. And I don't know I forgot how many they produced, but they sold out. They're all gone. You can't get them now. So it was a neat project. The Sioux-Line sand cars. They had 3 dedicated for Shoreham, and they had another handful that went to various like Luke's Railroad at Fond du Lac, and
Yeah.
they were built for calcium carbide service. But anyway, the society magazines are invaluable for modelers. The internet now. I mean, look at all the Facebook pages now on the internet, or on all the sites. The Railroad Fallen Flag site. I'm on there all the time getting prototype information. And John Hill has a lot on the Rail Picture Archives. He has his whole collection posted on that site. He told me
Yeah.
one time, he said, that's a way for me to archive all my photos, Bob. So
And in fact, John Hill has, I think, the largest photo collection that is on Railroad Picture Archives.
It's astronomical. It's even like 600,000.
Yeah, it's a big number.
It's a huge
Oh my
number.
goodness.
But it's of the Twin Cities area. But then John also did go all over and traveled a lot of times with Greg and Bob.
Right here, these are my color guides. Frank and I, we always thought when you're modeling freight cars, the color guides are invaluable. Here's the piggyback, volume 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That's really
oh,
good advice.
This is interesting. I ran across this the other day. It was a rejection letter from Model Railroader thanks Bob this is great because it's from Russ Larson, the associate editor. I sent some photos in to try to get them in Model Railroader. I was one of the first things I did back. Look at January 1973. Thanks, Bob,
Jeez.
for sending us the pen and ink sketches of Sioux Line Railroad activity in your area. Even though artwork doesn't really fit into our student fair format, it was good to hear from you and to see some of your work. So that's just, and I still have it. I'm always going to keep this letter. This is so cool.
Oh, wow.
Listen, yeah.
Well, from 1973 to today, I tell you, Bob is he's evolved and has been just a treasure of information.
Yeah.
This always fun to get something in the on the calendar. So that was a dresser turn coming down the hill at Central Avenue. And they don't run the dresser turns anymore. The rock trains out to Dresser, they get their rock somewhere else now, somewhere down in Wisconsin. So, or down on I think it's on a Milwaukee branch. So that's kind of a blow to us Twin Cities rail fans when the dresser turns stopped running a couple years ago.
Bob, I gotta say thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
This tour has been.
Of course, you're always gonna have technical glitches when you're running stuff for guys, right? Especially on live. YouTube.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll throw it out to the section crew here. We're still carrying about 135 people in the chat yet tonight. Let's get final questions for Bob and William here, and then what we'll do is we'll get ready to tie down for tonight before all the batteries go dead on us. But I think what I'd want to do is pass the microphone over to William first. Just first of all, thank you for being the producer behind the scenes this evening at Bob's house. You did remarkable, and we'll send an ice pack for the bumps on the noggin. But
there's a lot of duck unders down there, aren't there?
Yeah, but I guess you've been around Bob quite a bit, and seen his models and his railroad. What are your thoughts? Just to kind of summarize what we saw tonight.
I mean, my honest take on a lot of the work that Bob has put into his models, it really comes down to not really getting to see all that is here. I think a lot of the stuff that we end up doing as modelers is we end up looking at a lot of the simple things, and that's always just the big scene. And at the end of the day, I feel like there's more in every single visit. And I think every time I've come to see Bob, we're looking at stuff, everything from Great Northern to Santa Fe. But at the end of the day, it's the amount of detail that you really take it to. And I really think that Bob takes it to that next level. And as a modeler of myself, I always think, what would Bob do, or how could you take it to that next more realistic level? Because he's gotten me down that road of find a photo of the car and then model that car, right? And I think that to me is what speaks volumes. And I think the opportunity to pick his brain. But the other thing that people don't see that we see here is just what a great guy Bob is as an individual. He's selfless. He's always giving tips and information. He's not afraid to share what he's done. He's not afraid to show mistakes. And a lot of that type of stuff has helped me grow as a modeler. Extremely grateful for Bob, obviously always allowing us in, but he invites us more often than not. Any opportunity, he's like, oh, come over. You got to see something new that I've done.
Anytime
So
you
it's,
and your dad.
and we enjoy it. We enjoy it so much. That's what I would say I'd take away from the opportunity of being physically here is there's more here than what you guys are actually seeing.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? I mean,
I tell you what, I echo exactly what William just said. I mean, first of all, I blame Luke Lemons 100% for forcing me to go to Bob's house and have to endure everything I've had to see at Bob's house, because then on the way home, all I can think about is Sioux Line stuff. And all the things that I've got going, I'm like, okay, Bob did it this way,
right?
and MNS, and I tell you what, he's one of those modelers that when you see what he's doing, you can't help but be inspired to try to up your game, so to speak.
yeah.
I mean, it really is. It and like William said, he'll Bob, you come right out and say, you come right on. Oh yeah, you know what? I made a wrong cut right here, but I made it up by doing this with it. I just did this with it, and that it looks fine. And he makes you feel good about making a mistake. To be honest with you, because it's like, well, if Bob's okay with it, I can be okay with it. And it's like, oh, all right. So there is that. What is it called, William? WWBD. What is it? What would Bob do?
What would Bob do? Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's like every time I come over to your house, Bob, it's like, okay, what am I going to see this time that I didn't see the last time? And the last time I was at your house, you were running the G scale in the backyard,
Right.
and we were having a good time with that for a little while. And I'm like, man, I want to do that now.
And it actually wouldn't be a bad winter because we haven't had that much snow. We've had a couple inches. That's it. It'd be perfect for running well, like I said, I used to run it with straight DC out there. And if you keep the ice and the snow off the rails, you could run it in the winter. And I've got shots of that, of my trains in the winter out there. But it's like, no, the winters lately, it's like, why stand out in the cold? I'll just come in the house and downstairs. So
Yeah. Yeah, but the bottom line, Bob, thank you very much for being an inspiration and for being you. It's awesome.
I've been wanting to do this for a while, as you guys well know. So this is pretty cool.
I think this is going to be. I think there's a part 2 in the making here.
I do too.
Yeah, we do. Next time we do a part 2, we'll make sure we run that Rocky Suit transfer. And
that was the one we missed.
And we can have Luke on the other end there too. Maybe that would be cool.
It's kind of funny. The man who has spent all those years behind the camera has a passion to get in front of it. That's crazy. That's nice. I like that.
What was fun is when I was at Channel 11 still, and Jana, who does our 6:30 show, and we're in a commercial break one time, and she says, "Chooch," well, yeah, of course, Chooch. They called me at work, of course, but Chooch, I'd like to come over and see your trains. I always wanted to do a story about him. I'm like, really? That is cool. So, and it happened, and it turned out really nice. And
yeah, that's cool.
Editing on it and photo. She spent 2 days coming over here. She said, "Chooch, can I come back over? Because there's so much down there. I was overwhelmed." So she shot more footage, and we did some more interviewing, and it really turned out nice. She really did a bang up job editing.
That's so cool.
And you can see it it's on YouTube. Just go to KR11 Bob Soo Line, and you should be able to find it. So
nice.
It's neat to be able to share the hobby with others. And
well, it sounds like I just asked the question to the section crew about a part 2. Looks like we're going to have to pencil you in. So
I am up for it. I'll do it again if William does it with me because he's such a.
We'll make sure our audio issues are all ironed out if this has gotten better or worse.
And we'll make sure to get Luke on as well again. So
yes. Well, let's do it. I think that'd be a great idea. So
okay, then. So for me personally, Bob, thank you for taking the time tonight. And it sounds like, excuse me, that yes, you if you'll have us back, we'd love to have you back on the show for a part 2, so we can take a look at the Rock Island piece in some detail. I know we didn't get to cover all that tonight, but I think for me it's been certainly a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for all that you do in the hobby, because you're out there inspiring people like me to, I joined the C&W Historical Society, and I'm building models to to that level or trying to that level of detail that you and Luke do. So it's the stuff that you guys share is very inspiring to us. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I can't wait to do it again with you guys.
Yeah, very good. Well, so what we'll do here is we'll do whoopsie doodle. I got that still up. Just the sand cars. But we'll do a little admin stuff here before we head out. So February 6th is going to be our next show. We're going to have Matt Herman on, talking about his new venture with 3D Central, and talking about those cars that William had out there again. So make sure that you catch us for that. And I think we're going to have Tom Klamoski on the 20th, talking about track planning and track design based off of the prototype. So the prototype series continues here at the second section. And if you guys want to see and hear more of us, make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And then if you want to get in with the section crew community, we are out on Facebook as well. Facebook group, Second Section Podcast, great group of modelers, lots of information, lots of camaraderie. So, Mike, any final words here before we sign off for tonight?
No, just thank you, William. Thank you, Bob. Both
Yeah.
of you guys. Awesome job tonight. Can't wait to dive into section or to part two of the whole thing. And
hopefully I'll have the
well-
tires put on this vehicle next time too.
yeah, absolutely.
I'll probably do it tonight.
Well, and I know for a fact I'll be seeing you in both of you probably in what is it, March? Is that in March? The modelers
Yep.
the modelers retreat? Yeah, the modelers retreat in I believe it's still in Plymouth, Minnesota. I believe it's going to be. So yeah, I can't wait to get over there and see you guys. Might see you before that, depending on how much Luke drags my ear over there. But we'll see how it goes.
We'll get you back over here too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So, but yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, William. And
bet.
good night,
Thank you,
section
guys.
crew. We'll see
Good night,
you
guys.
in 2 weeks.
Weeks.